Chapter 4391. Heh, it's a win-win situation. Senior Brother Lu, you've been missing for so long, and Senior Brother Ku and the others are worried about you. I heard from the master of the Xinyang Pavilion that you were here, and I saw a mission like this, so I came to try my luck. I didn't think I'd actually run into one. You. Sigh. Lu Bianren pointed at Lin Yi and sighed. He was touched, but at the same time, he couldn't help but blame himself. Back in the Welcome Pavilion, I had the title of Third Pavilion Master for nothing, but I couldn't help you at all. Now, I have caused you to worry for me. I can't feel at ease. Senior Brother Lu, that's where you're wrong. It's rare for us to get along so well, and we're all on the same side. If we don't do anything when you suddenly disappear, wouldn't that be too inhumane? Lin Yi said disapprovingly. You are right, but you don't have to take such a risk for me. What if you get yourself into trouble? Then I won't be able to forgive myself even if I die 1,000 times. Lu Bianren said with lingering fear. Didn't I successfully get away? Anyway, the ending is a happy one. Besides, I came here for the trial mission, not to look for you. Senior Brother Lu, don't take it to heart. Lin Yi smiled. All right. Lu Bianren nodded helplessly. However, with his temperament, how could he let go of such a great kindness so easily? He just kept it in his heart and firmly remembered it. Then, he asked, by the way, how is Kazanal now? Senior Brother Ku is now the Third Pavilion Master of the Welcome Pavilion. He has Xiao Ran, Xiao Hongkai, and Li Jingming to help him. There should be no problem. Lin Yi replied. Ku Zhongla became the Third Pavilion Master. The Pavilion Master of Xinyang Pavilion nodded. Lu Bianren was shocked. The Welcoming Pavilion's Third Pavilion Lord position, no matter who it was, had to be approved by the Clear Cloud Pavilion's Pavilion Lord, Yu Xinyang. Merely relying on his own hard work would not be able to gain Yu Xinyang's recognition. Needless to say, Lin Yi must have contributed to this. Lu Bianren looked at Lin Yi in shock. As the Pavilion Master of the Blue Cloud Pavilion, Yu Xinyang's judgment of people was not inferior to that of Shanghai Tianhua. This junior brother of his was truly a heaven-defying genius for Yu Xinyang to appreciate him so much. If he knew that Lin Yi was not only appreciated by Yu Xinyang, but even Shanghai Tianhua, the Soaring Pavilion's Pavilion Master, attached great importance to him and even treated him the same way as Ram Jia back then, Lu Bianren would probably faint on the spot. That's right, so we're all fine. Senior Brother Lu, you don't have to worry. Lin Yi nodded and asked, let's talk about you. How did you get captured by the Central Chamber of Commerce? This question had been asked in the dungeon before. At that time, Lu Bianren did not know that it was Lin Yi, so he refused to elaborate. Lin Yi naturally did not force him. After all, there were too many people, but now there was no such concern. Junior Brother Lin Yi, since you know about me from Pavilion Master Yu, then you should know what I'm doing here, right? Lu Bianren did not answer but asked. I know. Senior Brother Lu, you came here in the name of a task. If I'm not wrong, it must be to find the news of Deputy Pavilion Master Yao. Lin Yi nodded. Yes, I came to the South Continent this time. It's to inquire about Deputy Pavilion Master Yao Luanzhen. Lu Bianren said with a faint gaze, as far as I know, he also disappeared in this South Continent Sea, and before that. He actually came here to participate in a trial reward task organized by a person, to repair an array. Repair array? Lin Yi was surprised. This was the first time he heard Yao Luanzhen's full name, so he naturally did not know much about it. He could not help but ask curiously, so, Deputy Pavilion Master Yao is an array master? On the Heaven Stage Island, compared to the highly respected alchemy, casting was already considered an unpopular industry. As for array masters, it was even more unpopular than casting. Basically, no one would talk about it. In fact, looking at the 5 great Heaven Stage Islands, not to mention array masters, even decent array masters were rare. Even if there were, it was only a very shallow protective array. As for the complex and exquisite teleportation arrays, 9 out of 10 were left behind many years ago. Until now, Lin Yi had never heard of anyone who could make a teleportation array. It can't be said that he is an array master. In this era, the people who can really become an array master have basically disappeared. Although Deputy Pavilion Master Yao has always been very interested in this aspect and has been spending a lot of effort to study it, he can only be regarded as proficient in it. He can't personally arrange a truly exquisite and profound array. However, in terms of maintaining and repairing array, he is quite experienced. Lu Bianren explained. I see. Lin Yi took a deep look at Lu Bianren. Listening to it, this Deputy Pavilion Master Yao and Lu Bianren were actually the same type of people. They didn't have great ambitions, but they both liked to ponder and research on their own. It was no wonder that the two of them got together. After all, birds of a feather flock together. Deputy Pavilion Master Yao has reached the point of being obsessed with arrays. Otherwise, he wouldn't have come all the way from the North Island to the South Continent after seeing such a trial-reward mission. The reason is obvious. It is said that it is an extremely rare array, but I don't know the specifics. Lu Bianren spread his hands helplessly. Lin Yi nodded in agreement. Yao Luanjun, as the Vice Pavilion Lord of Clear Cloud Pavilion, was already a big shot in his own right. His status was not to be underestimated. Under normal circumstances, he wouldn't even need to participate in a trial mission. With his status, he wouldn't care about this small reward. The only thing that really attracted him was the formation itself. And then? Lin Yi continued to ask. After many inquiries, I finally found some clues. The mysterious man who issued the task in the Cultivators Guild of the North Island once appeared in the Central Chamber of Commerce. So I inferred that this person was either an internal member of the Central Chamber of Commerce or had some kind of connection with the Central Chamber of Commerce. Lu Bianren said in full detail. It makes sense. The Central Chamber of Commerce suddenly rose overnight, giving people a feeling of mystery. It's normal that this kind of thing has something to do with them. Lin Yi agreed. Chapter 4392. Just asking a few questions and being arrested, isn't it obvious that they have a guilty conscience? Lin Yi suddenly frowned. Any merchant would open their doors to welcome guests from all over the world. Even if someone came to their door to make trouble, they would still have to be patient. Who would be arrested just for asking for information? It would be strange to say that there was nothing fishy about this. What's more, the Central Chamber of Commerce captured so many people just to do human experiments. No matter how you look at it, such a disregard for human life does not fit with a normal Chamber of Commerce. It's more like a cult. I think so too. The questions I asked at the time were actually very vague, and I didn't mean to target them, but they still acted so sensitive. It can be seen that there must be something fishy behind it. Otherwise, why would they capture me? Lu Bianren said with certainty. Well, but in this case, this Deputy Pavilion Leader Yao, who I have never met before, is probably dead. Maybe he has already been captured by them to do human experiments. Lin Yi could not help but feel worried and regretful. That's not necessarily true. Lu Bianren shook his head and said, Deputy Pavilion Leader Yao is a profound ascending stage master. These people in the Central Chamber of Commerce always only want gold core stage masters to do human experiments. They don't even want nascent soul stage masters, let alone profound ascending stage masters. What? Deputy Pavilion Leader Yao is a profound ascending stage master? Lin Yi was a little surprised. The first time he knew of a profound ascending stage master was when the Will of Heaven fought against Southern Aurora Polaris in Middle Island. At that time, Southern Aurora Polaris could already fight for the position of Middle Island Deputy Island Master with just the strength of the early profound ascending stage. And after that, Lin Yi once again saw the glory of a profound ascending stage master. It was the three giants of Morning Star Academy. The divine nun of East Sea looked at Qing Katian, a gold core stage master, to death. That kind of shock was really impressive. So subconsciously, Lin Yi always felt that the giants of the profound ascending stage were unattainable, even if he encountered more than one profound ascending stage master in the central chamber of commerce. But he never changed this thought. Yao Luanjun, as the deputy pavilion leader of the Blue Cloud Pavilion in the North Island, had a high status, but compared with the deputy island master of Middle Island, he was still inferior. What's more, he had the same temperament as Lu Bianren. He was completely immersed in the study of arrays, and was not the kind of person who would desperately cultivate to improve his strength. Lin Yi originally thought that his strength should be in the nascent soul realm, and it was very likely that he was at the peak of the nascent soul realm. This person was actually a mysterious ascended early stage expert. Lu Bianren saw through Lin Yi's doubts and explained with a smile, "That's right. Although Deputy Pavilion Leader Yao is obsessed with formations, he's actually very talented in cultivation. He used to be a famous super genius on the North Island. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to become the Deputy Pavilion Leader of Blue Cloud Pavilion. It's just that he's always kept a low profile and hasn't done anything sensational over the years, so he doesn't attract much attention." Lin Yi nodded. After thinking about it carefully, it suddenly dawned on him. Although the Blue Cloud Pavilion was at the bottom of the 3 pavilions in the North Island, it was at least a giant of the same level. The Deputy Pavilion Leader of the Blue Cloud Pavilion was also a big shot standing at the top of the North Island. It was not surprising that he had the strength of the mysterious ascended early stage. Well, since Deputy Pavilion Leader Yao is a mysterious ascended early stage expert, the possibility of being caught for human experiments is indeed much lower. Maybe he's really repairing the formation somewhere. Lin Yi pinched his chin and speculated. He had a vague feeling that the Central Chamber of Commerce suddenly looking for someone to repair the formation might not be a simple bait. It was true. People like Yao Luanzhen were not only strong enough, but also proficient in formations. For the Central Chamber of Commerce, he was a rare talent. The possibility of killing him was actually not high. According to normal logic, even if he was temporarily used up, he would not be killed. Instead, he would find an excuse to put him under house arrest to prevent any problems with the formation in the future. Lin Yi was even speculating whether the formation that Yao Luanzhen was involved in repairing was related to the secular world. The most dazzling and special label of the Central Chamber of Commerce was that it could connect with the secular world, and the way of this connection must be some kind of extremely profound and complicated formation. Yao Luanzhen's participation in the repair may be the key to the rise of the Central Chamber of Commerce on the Heaven Stage Island. However, all this was still an unfounded speculation. Unless he really saw Yao Luanzhen and heard it from his mouth, that would be the truth. Maybe, it's just that the Central Chamber of Commerce is so nervous about this matter that they can't even casually inquire about it. There are no clues at all. If we want to find Deputy Pavilion Master Yao, the difficulty is really tantamount to looking for a needle in a haystack. Lu Bianren shook his head and sighed. Yao Luanzhen was not only a backer who supported him, but the two were also extremely congenial best friends. The other party had disappeared for so long and there was still no news. He was really worried that he couldn't sleep. This matter must be considered in the long run. The Central Chamber of Commerce has many masters, and they are dirty and evil. Once you are caught by them again, you won't be so lucky next time, so you must not act rashly. Lin Yi warned with a stern face. Yeah, I was too rash before, that's why I attracted their attention and fell into their hands. It's all thanks to you, Lin Yi, that I would have died this time. Lu Bianren sighed, feeling the lingering fear. If Lin Yi came a day later, or even just 2 hours later, the ending may be very different. It was very likely that he would have been dragged to do the so-called human experiment by now, maybe he would have become a corpse. This is called God's will. Senior brother Lu, you are not destined to die. If you survive a disaster, you will have good fortune later. Lin Yi comforted him with a smile, and then said, but speaking of which, the Central Chamber of Commerce is indeed not easy to mess with. There's something strange about it from top to bottom. There's the secular market, human experiments, mysterious formations, and there's so many experts gathered here. There's even a profound ascending stage giant appearing out of nowhere. With our current strength, we're far from being able to fight them. Senior brother Lu, what are your plans next? This. Lu Bianren frowned and thought for a moment, then said, as you said, junior brother Lin Yi, with my strength, I can't even touch the Central Chamber of Commerce, let alone find Deputy Pavilion Master Yao. So, in order not to cause you trouble, I'd better leave immediately and go back to the North Island first. Although Lu Bianren had a mild temperament, he was never a person who was afraid of trouble, and he would never run away in the face of a battle. It was actually very difficult for him to make this decision. Chapter 4393. This was an obvious fact. If it were someone else in his position, he might not be able to see it clearly in a short time, let alone accept it calmly. But Lu Bianren was different. He was sincerely thinking for Lin Yi, and he would never stay in the South Continent to do stupid things for the sake of his ridiculous self-esteem, which would implicate Lin Yi. Senior brother Lu, I'm glad you think so. Hearing this, Lin Yi let out a sigh of relief, and at the same time, he couldn't help but think more highly of Lu Bianren. He was afraid that Lu Bianren would be embarrassed, but he didn't expect Lu Bianren to be so straightforward. He nodded in agreement and said, it's beyond my power now. Just bear it and wait for a good opportunity in the future. Well, junior brother, you're right. I'll leave now and go back to the North Island. Lu Bianren made a prompt decision. He knew that every moment he stayed in Devil Ling City was a moment of risk and hidden danger. Since he had decided to leave, he shouldn't hesitate. It was better to leave before the Central Chamber of Commerce fully reacted. Senior brother Lu, wait. Lin Yi hurriedly stopped him and said, the power of the Central Chamber of Commerce is beyond our imagination. Once they react, their people will be everywhere. Senior brother Lu, if you go out like this, you'll be too obvious a target. It's very likely that you won't even be able to get out of the dock, and you'll be walking into a tiger's mouth again. Lin Yi had been wearing the 1,000 silk mask before. Now that he took it off, he was a completely different person, and nothing would happen when he went out. But Lu Bianren was different. He had been locked in the dungeon for so long, and he had just escaped from it. The people of the Central Chamber of Commerce must have some impression of him. As long as the dock was blocked, if Lu Bianren went out like this, he would definitely walk into a trap. Lu Bianren also hesitated. He didn't want to involve Lin Yi, but he wasn't so fearless that he would take the initiative to die. Otherwise, why would Lin Yi spend so much effort to save him? But if he stayed here, the risk was not small. The risk was also not small. In the eyes of others, the Central Chamber of Commerce was just a newly risen large-scale chamber of commerce, but Lu Bianren and the others who had seen the dark inside stories had a much deeper understanding of the power of the Central Chamber of Commerce than others. If the people from the Central Chamber of Commerce really wanted to chase after him, once they really mobilized a large force, Lu Bianren would be discovered sooner or later if he continued to hide here. There was no room for luck at all. If he left now, there was a high chance that he would be stuck at the dock. However, it was also possible that someone would come knocking on his door. For a moment, Lu Bianren was caught in a dilemma. After all, he was the one who first suggested going out to play. If something were to happen to Lin Yi because of this, then he would become the biggest sinner of the entire Equal Heaven Escort Agency. In just a short period of 4 to 6 hours, the news of Lin Yi's disappearance had already spread throughout the agency. Even housekeeper Song was preparing to arrange for everyone to go out and search for him. The only thing left was to call Qi Mingyuan, the head escort leader, back. As for Qi Wenhan, he was frantically searching everywhere. He had walked the road between the Central Chamber of Commerce and the inn at least 7 or 8 times. He was really anxious. If he still could not find Lin Yi, he could not wait to find Qi Mingyuan to apologize. Fortunately, he had just heard from the waiter that someone had returned from Lin Yi's room. That was why he hurried over to check on the situation. When he saw that Lin Yi was standing there safe and sound, he immediately let out a sigh of relief. His whole body felt deflated. I'm sorry to have made you worry, Brother Chi. Lin Yi saw how worried Chi Wenhan was, and felt a little touched. It had happened so suddenly that he couldn't help it, but he still felt a little bad about it. I saw that you were really engrossed, so I went downstairs myself. I didn't think that I'd run into someone I knew, so I left after a few words. I'm really sorry. The reason why Lin Yi did not tell the truth was mainly because he did not want to drag the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency into this. The Central Chamber of Commerce's power was too great. A mere Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was not a match at all, and would only be caught in the crossfire. Hey, what's wrong with that? Of course, old friends should chat a little longer when they meet. Chi Wenhan waved his hand indifferently and said magnanimously, "It's good that you're fine. I was just worried that Brother Ling would run into Cheng Haonan and the others from the Poison Eye mercenary band. They might come looking for trouble with you. After all, 2 fists are no match for 4 hands." Chapter 43-94. Huh, that's not true. Lin Yi smiled nonchalantly. Compared to the huge threat of the Central Chamber of Commerce, the Poison Eye mercenary group was child's play. Lin Yi didn't take them seriously at all. That's good, that's good. Chi Wenhan nodded repeatedly. After being nervous for so long, he finally relaxed. Oh right, Brother Chi, I want to trouble you to do me a favor. Lin Yi suddenly made a request with a serious expression. Brother Ling, don't be like this. We're on the same side. Why would I trouble you? If you need anything, just tell me. I'll go through fire and water to get it done for you. Chi Wenhan patted his chest and said. I want to use the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency's channels to secretly escort someone back to Weiwan City, then go back to the North Island. Is that okay? Lin Yi asked. Secretly escort someone? Chi Wenhan was stunned, then nodded without hesitation and said, Of course, that's not a problem. Our Equal of Heaven Escort Agency does this. It's not a problem to escort someone. But Brother Ling, who is this person? Senior Brother Lu, come out. Lin Yi smiled and called Lu Bianren out from the inner room. He introduced the 2 of them and said, This is my senior brother Lu Bianren from the Blue Cloud Pavilion in the North Island. This is the young master of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency, Chi Wenhan. Nice to meet you. Lu Bianren and Chi Wenhan saluted each other at the same time. Brother Ling, is this Brother Lu the acquaintance you met at the Central Chamber of Commerce? Previously, our escort agency couldn't find it no matter how hard we tried, but in the end, the 2 of you ran into it. How can there be such a coincidence in this world? Chi Wenhan looked Lu Bianren up and down with a look of realization. Like Wu Baoyang, Lu Bianren was the target that Lin Yi asked them to find. Huh, it's really a coincidence. Lin Yi smiled and said, Senior Brother Lu came to the South Island to carry out a mission a few months ago. Because of some unforeseen circumstances, he has been staying here. The brothers in the North Island are all worried about him. That's why I want to ask Brother Chi to use the security agency's channels to send Senior Brother Lu back as soon as possible. Well said, well said. Brother Ling's business is the business of the escort agency. It's just delivering a person, there's no need to ask for anything. Brother Ling, you're treating me like an outsider. Chi Wenhan laughed heartily. In fact, with his shrewdness, he could more or less guess that there must be some hidden story behind this. It was just that it was inconvenient for Lin Yi to talk about it in detail. Otherwise, there would be no need to deliberately mention a secret escort. However, he would not pursue the matter further. After all, everyone had their own things to do. If he made things difficult for Lin Yi and the others because of him asking too many questions, then he could only slap himself in the face. In the escort agency business, one should only ask questions that should be asked, and absolutely not ask questions that should not be asked. This was the most basic rule. Otherwise, not only would they offend the client, they might even invite a disaster for no reason. As the young master of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, Chi Wenhan was very clear about this point. Then, I'll leave senior brother Lu to brother Chi. Lin Yi did not bother with pleasantries. He turned his head and said to Lu Bianren, "Senior brother Lu, I still have things to do here in the South Continent. I won't go back with you for now. Tell senior brother Ku and the others good news for me, so they don't have to worry about me. Yes, junior brother, you have to be more careful. Although there's an old saying that the skilled are bold, the other party is really not to be underestimated. You must not act rashly when you're alone. It's best to go back and report this matter to the higher-ups, and then think about it at length," Lu Bianren warned with some worry. Due to Qi Wenhan's presence, he could not directly point out the Central Chamber of Commerce. However, Lin Yi naturally understood what he meant. With the terrifying strength displayed by the Central Chamber of Commerce, it was impossible to shake it with just the strength of a few people. Only by mobilizing the entire 3 pavilions of the North Island could they barely have the confidence to contend with it. "Senior brother Lu, don't worry, I know what to do." Lin Yi nodded. Although he often fought with his life on the line, he was not a person who liked to fight. It was fine if he did not know before, but now that he knew that the Central Chamber of Commerce was full of masters, and he could easily meet a mysterious ascending stage giant, why would Lin Yi rashly provoke them again? He was not stupid. "That's good, let's meet again in the North Island." Lu Bianren cupped his hands and said goodbye to Lin Yi. "Okay, let's meet again in the North Island. There's no time to lose." "Brother Qi, arrange for senior brother Lu to leave now," Lin Yi said immediately. "Okay, brother Lu, come with me." Qi Wenhan immediately brought Lu Bianren out. As one of the 5 largest escort agencies in the South Continent, the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency naturally had its own specialized logistics channels. Secretly escorting a person out was a simple matter, and no one from any faction would be able to detect it. After sending Lu Bianren away, Lin Yi finally had one less thing to worry about. This was the main purpose of his trip to the South Continent. As for hunting down Wu Baoyang, it was just a secondary matter. In the next few days, Lin Yi stayed in his room and did not go out. The only thing he did every day was to meditate and cultivate. This time, he suddenly saw so many masters in the Central Chamber of Commerce, especially the mysterious ascending stage giants. It really stimulated Lin Yi, and the pressure was self-evident. Although he was not a person who liked to fight, he had a strong desire to win. He had always been unwilling to fall behind others, otherwise, he would not have reached this level today. At present, it was obviously unrealistic for Lin Yi to reach the level of the mysterious ascending stage in a short period of time. Even if there was such a shortcut, he would not take it. Pressure was pressure, but being down to earth and well-grounded was the way to go. Therefore, the only thing that Lin Yi had to do now was to concentrate on his cultivation. The thicker his foundation, the better it was, and quietly wait for the opportunity to break through. Moreover, after the incident at the Central Chamber of Commerce, although Lin Yi had the 1,000 silk mask to deceive others, he still could not wander outside at this sensitive time, just in case. After all, he had only put on the 1,000 silk mask at the last minute when he was discovered. Previously, he had been loitering around the first and second floors with his original appearance. So many employees had seen it. With the astonishing power displayed by the Central Chamber of Commerce, who knew if they would be able to find out? Anyway, there was nothing to do outside, so Lin Yi simply did not go out. He cultivated behind closed doors while waiting for the start of the South Continent Escort Agency. In addition, Lin Yi also specifically reminded Qi Wenhan that if it was not necessary, it was best not to go out during this time. In the face of such an unfathomable Central Chamber of Commerce, no matter how careful he was, he could not be too careful. If the Central Chamber of Commerce could really find out Lin Yi's original appearance, then they would naturally be able to find out that Lin Yi appeared with Qi Wenhan. It would not be good if Qi Wenhan was implicated because of this. Chapter 4395. One must always be on guard against others, not to mention that those people were notorious for being sinister. It was always good to be careful. It was better to avoid these kinds of things that might cause trouble. Qi Wenhan, as the young master of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, although he had some of the habits of a young master, he was a steady person who knew the big picture. Since Lin Yi had specifically reminded him, he might as well go into seclusion and focus on studying the information of his competitors. He wanted to strive for a good position in the upcoming Southern Continent Escort Agency event. Lin Yi carefully went into seclusion. He thought that his identity was hidden enough that he should not be discovered. However, he never thought that the Central Chamber of Commerce knew him far more than he imagined. At this moment, on the third floor of the Central Chamber of Commerce, the man in black and Ma Tianlang were still there. However, both of them were not qualified to sit in the main seat. Instead, they stood aside in fear and trepidation. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat. The person sitting in the main seat was a woman, and behind her stood a mysterious man covered in a black bamboo hat. Wang Dayuan, you are the shopkeeper of the Moling branch, and also the person in charge of this area. What happened this time? Explain it to me clearly. The woman's voice was very calm, as if there was no emotion, but the atmosphere in the room suddenly became stagnant. This was not a substantial suppression of momentum, but simply the aura of a superior brought about by power. Even though he was a profound ascending stage master whose strength was beyond the reach of Lin Yi, he could not help but shrink his neck. He did not even dare to breathe, for fear of causing the woman's dissatisfaction. The Wang Dayuan that the woman mentioned was Ma Tianlang's boss. The man in black became more and more nervous and even began to tremble uncontrollably. This, subordinate. Wang Dayuan stammered, unable to say anything for a long time. You don't know? Or you don't want to say it? The woman frowned slightly, and her eyes flashed with killing intent. It seems that you don't want to continue being the shopkeeper, right? That's fine, my lab is in need of volunteers. Although profound ascending stage masters have not been included in the research scope, it will happen sooner or later. Why don't I let you have a taste first? No, I wouldn't dare. Wang Dayuan was so frightened that he quickly knelt down. The success rate of human experimentation was extremely low. Once one was listed as a test target, 9.5 out of 10 would die. He still wanted to live a happy and carefree life. Then why don't you hurry up and say it? Could it be that you still want to shirk responsibility after such a major incident has occurred? The woman berated coldly. With her status in the organization, there was no need for her to ask about such trivial matters. Even if a branch of a Central Chamber of Commerce was destroyed, she wouldn't need to show up personally. However, this incident had caused dozens of test samples to run away all at once. This was undoubtedly a huge blow to her experiments that were at a critical stage. Even she couldn't help but feel anxious. Up until now, Wang Dayuan still hadn't fully understood the situation. However, if he couldn't come up with an explanation at this time, his fate would be bleak. He could only bite the bullet and say, I heard that it was a martial artist that was recently captured. He seemed to have used some sort of powerful technique to blow up the dungeon. Wang Dayuan had only heard these words from others. And the words were vague, and he didn't know whether it was true or not. If it was proven to be true later, then it would be fine. But if it was false, then today's matter would be huge. The other party would really take him to do human experiments in a fit of anger. What exactly is going on? Tell me clearly. The woman frowned and snorted coldly. Who the hell did you hear this from? Who is that martial artist? What is his strength? What kind of technique did he use to be powerful enough to blow up the dungeon that was reinforced by a protective formation? The protective facilities of this dungeon had already been considered at the beginning of the design. Because it was to concentrate on imprisoning Golden Core stage masters, the power of the protective formation was enough to resist a higher-level nascent soul stage master. As long as it wasn't a profound ascending stage master, in theory, it was foolproof. Who would have thought that such a thing would happen? This is what the person we captured said. Wang Dayuan stammered, cold sweat dripping down his forehead. This incident was indeed due to his incompetence. Otherwise, if he really wanted to investigate, the truth would have come to light long ago. However, he had not been in Imoling City for the past 2 days. He was busy competing with other branches for the supply of secular goods. How could he have the time to care about his family's affairs? How could he have thought that there would suddenly be a fire in his backyard? He was the manager of the branch. If he managed the branch well, not only would it be a political achievement, but he could also take the opportunity to take advantage of the situation and make a lot of money from it. In contrast, although the dungeon that imprisoned many Golden Core stage masters was also within his scope of responsibility, because there was no profit to be made, he had never paid special attention to it. However, now that such a big thing had happened, Wang Deyuan regretted it. Although there was no profit to be made in the dungeon, this was a project that the whole organization attached great importance to. If there was an accident and it couldn't be remedied in time, then he would really lose his head. Just like now, he had made such a big mess, but there was no way to deal with the aftermath. His life was completely in the hands of the woman. Life or death, it was all in the hands of the woman. Where is that person? Bring him here. The woman frowned and said. She could also see that Wang Deyuan did not know the inside story. Instead of continuing to ask this muddle-headed guy, it was better to interrogate him personally. Wang Deyuan suddenly trembled, and with a bitter face, he did not dare to raise his head and said, that person has been sent to do human experiments. At that time, when the dungeon was blown up, although there were masters who stayed behind to catch people from all directions, after all, there were too few people, and there were too many people who escaped from the dungeon. Every one of them was a Golden Core stage master. When they risked their lives, their speed of escape was not small. Moreover, they fled in different directions, so the number of people who were really caught was actually very limited. And with the idea of reducing the big problem to a small one, this matter was not reported at the first time. After all, for Wang Deyuan and the others, as long as this matter was known by the higher-ups, it would be a big mistake. But if they took advantage of the fact that before the higher-ups received the news, they could quickly catch more Golden Core stage masters to fill in the test samples, then they could make up for their mistakes. Coincidentally, now was the critical stage of the experiment, and the requirements for the samples were especially high. Therefore, those who were caught had already been sent to do human experiments as usual. Now, they were probably already dead bodies. Wang Deyuan and Ma Tianlang didn't dare to neglect it. They regarded it as the last straw to clutch at. They hurriedly rushed out to get them. After a while, the nascent soul stage expert that the two had mentioned was brought in with a face full of fear. It was Sun Hengbiao. As a nascent soul stage expert, it was actually possible for him to successfully escape. He was far stronger than the other Golden Core stage experts. Unfortunately, he had been beaten half to death by Lin Yi earlier, and his strength had been greatly reduced. Thus, he was unable to escape quickly. In addition, he was a conspicuous target, so he was the first to be targeted by the expert guards who had rushed back. He was escorted by Wang Deyuan and Ma Tianlang. Stumbling into the room, he stole a glance at the woman and the mysterious man. Sun Hengbiao very consciously plopped down on his knees. After all, he wasn't a fool. He knew that he could be rude and unreasonable in front of others, but if he didn't cooperate in front of these people, he would definitely be seeking his own death. Tell me, how was the dungeon broken into? The woman's tone was unpredictable. Oh. Sun Hengbiao shrunk his neck and replied carefully, it was a martial artist who had just been locked up. I don't know exactly how strong he is, but he must be very strong. I, a middle stage nascent soul stage, was no match for him at all. We had a small scuffle at the beginning, but in the end, I was beaten to the ground by him. Get to the point. The woman frowned slightly. She just wanted to know who caused her so much trouble. As for the personal grudges of a small fry like Sun Hengbiao, she couldn't be bothered to care. Yes. That person meditated quietly at the beginning, but after the two guards took one person away, he must have made sure that there was no one outside the door. He suddenly asked us to retreat behind him, and he himself activated an extremely terrifying move. I swear I've never seen such a strange martial art in my life. The destructive power was really rare. After that, there was a huge explosion in the dungeon. Then it was blown up, Sun Hengbiao said in full detail. In front of these people. He didn't dare to hide anything. Oh. You mean, that person activated a very destructive move, and just by activating it with his hands, there was a huge explosion? The woman couldn't help but be slightly startled. Yes, that feeling was very strange. It was as if he had been preparing for a long time, and then suddenly exploded. I've never seen such a martial art. Sun Hengbiao himself was also confused. After all, he was a master in the middle stage of the nascent soul realm. At least he could see that this was definitely a move that Lin Yi had prepared in private, and it didn't seem like it was activated on the spur of the moment. Otherwise, if it was really that powerful, then this person would be comparable to a giant in the mysterious ascending stage. How could he have been captured in the first place? When the woman heard this, she turned her head and looked at the mysterious man. There was obviously a hint of surprise in their eyes. It was obvious that they had discovered something, and at the same time, they had some suspicions. About this person, tell me everything you know, such as what characteristics this person has, or any details that left a deep impression on you. If you hide anything, you should know what the consequences will be, the woman continued to ask. Yes, I won't dare to hide anything. Sun Hengbiao hurriedly swore, and then carefully thought about it and said, if you want to talk about characteristics, this person has no other characteristics besides being strong and having a rough and boorish face. However, this person's temperament and his appearance give people a strange feeling. You mean, this person's temperament and appearance don't match? The woman nodded thoughtfully, and said with an inscrutable expression, continue. Oh, yes, there is another thing that is very strange about this person. He seems to take special care of someone. Although there is no special communication between them, in fact, there is a bias, very obvious. Sun Hengbiao suddenly patted his head and said, I don't know whether it was intentional or not, that person deliberately sat next to the one surnamed Lu. Before, when the guard came in to take people away, according to the rules, it should have been the surnamed Lu's turn, but that person glared at me and forced me to change it to someone else. Chapter 4397. Hearing Sun Hengbiao's words, the woman did not have any reaction, but the mysterious man's eyes suddenly narrowed for some reason. Also, if I remember correctly, after the dungeon was blown up, that person seemed to be running with that Lu guy. There must be something fishy going on between the two of them, hee. Sun Hengbiao was getting more and more excited as he spoke. Wait a minute. What's the name of the Lu you mentioned? The mysterious man suddenly asked. Let me think. Sun Hengbiao frowned and thought for a long time, then finally slapped his head and said, I think he's called Lu Bianren. Lu Bianren? The mysterious man's eyes suddenly flashed, and the corner of his mouth curled up into a playful smile. Do you know this person? The woman could not help but ask. The mysterious man nodded without batting an eyelid. He glanced at Wang Deyuan and the others, but did not say much. Hearing this, he had already guessed the truth, but there were too many people, so he naturally would not say it in front of these people. The few of you can leave for now. The woman understood tacitly, and immediately ordered everyone to leave. Sun Hengbiao did not say anything, but Wang Deyuan and Ma Tianlang were both overjoyed. They thought that they had made such a big mess this time, even if they did not die, they would lose a layer of skin. But looking at it, this Miss Luan did not seem to have any special intention to pursue the matter. The two of them immediately thanked her profusely, and hurriedly dragged Sun Hengbiao out. In the room, only Miss Luan and the mysterious man were left. This Lu Bianren, if I'm not mistaken, is a disciple of the Blue Cloud Pavilion in the North Island. When he was the third pavilion master of the Welcome Pavilion, I heard that he had a very close relationship with Lin Yi, the mysterious man said slowly. Oh. Lu Bianren and Lin Yi have a close relationship, so that means that Wu Fu is likely Lin Yi? Miss Luan nodded. In fact, before this, she had already speculated in this regard. After all, she had been paying attention to Lin Yi for a long time. Yes, at least 90% likely. According to what this person said, the move that destroyed the dungeon was very similar to the alchemic firebomb. Among the people this subordinate has seen, there are only 2 people who are proficient in this extremely rare technique. One is Kong Ming, who is now a member of our center, and he is now in the North Island, so we can rule him out. The other one is Lin Yi. The mysterious man said with certainty. He has a close relationship with Liu Bianren and also knows how to use the pill firebomb. Judging from this Wu Fu must be Lin Yi. Miss Luan concluded. There's one more thing that can be proved. Although this person looks like a martial artist, the feeling he gives off doesn't match his temperament. This means that this person is likely to be wearing a disguise, which is Lin Yi in disguise. The mysterious man nodded. Then he said, moreover, I went to the Lufeng forest to look for the infant ginseng. In fact, I had already found the traces of the infant ginseng, but it was one step ahead of me. At that time, there were traces of a pill firebomb left at the scene. If I'm not wrong, it should be Lin Yi who did it. These things might be suspicious if they were taken apart and looked at individually, but when they were all gathered together, all the arrows pointed to the same person. Then there was no need to doubt anymore. This person must be Lin Yi. This guy is a little interesting. I really don't know whether he did it on purpose or not. He actually came to ruin our business again and again. Miss Luan couldn't help laughing. From her expression at the moment, others couldn't tell whether she was happy or angry. Miss Luan, why don't I go there myself? The mysterious man suggested. It didn't matter if it was intentional or not, letting Lin Yi do whatever he wanted wasn't a good thing for them. They didn't know what kind of trouble he'd cause in the future if they didn't do something about it. No. Lin Yi must be kept alive. He will be of great use in the future. This is something Dr. Li specifically told me. I can't violate it. Anyway, it's not a big deal. If he wants to make a mess, then so be it. Let him be. Miss Luan shook her head slightly. But Lin Yi, he has done amazing things again and again. Don't look at his current strength. I have a hunch that it won't be long before he becomes a big problem for us. At that time, it won't be so easy to deal with him. The mysterious man was a little worried. He seemed to know Lin Yi very well. With his level of strength, under normal circumstances, he wouldn't pay attention to a gold core stage master like Lin Yi. He would only treat him as a lowly ant that could be crushed to death. Even if this ant made a little trouble, it would not be able to change the overall situation. However, for some reason, this mysterious man's attention to Lin Yi had far exceeded the level of treating ordinary ants. He said that it was as if he was facing a great enemy. Why? With your talent and strength, why would you be afraid of such a junior? This is really strange. Miss Luan couldn't help but laugh. Now on the Heaven Stage Island, it was true that she was in charge of the overall situation, but this mysterious man was one of the chief confidants. His position in the organization was actually very high. He could reach his current level completely by relying on his super talent and strength. In the face of him, no tycoon dared to underestimate him. He was an extraordinary person. It was inevitable that the mysterious man was also a person with high standards. Not to mention ordinary people, even a profound ascending stage master would be afraid of him. However, now, he only treated a gold core stage master like Lin Yi differently. He even expressed his fear in his heart. This kind of thing, even Miss Luan had heard of it. I'm not afraid. It's just that my intuition tells me that Lin Yi can't be underestimated. In order to avoid future trouble, it's best to nip the hidden danger in the bud. The mysterious man said sternly. As Miss Luan said, with his talent and strength, he never needed to be afraid of anyone. Any master, including those legendary masters, could only be surpassed by him, and no one had ever been able to surpass him. However, conceit was conceit. At the same time, the mysterious man had absolute rationality. He would never make mistakes because of conceit, and he would never underestimate the enemy because of conceit. Otherwise, if he was really the kind of person who looked down on others with a little bit of strength, it would be impossible for him to achieve his current status and level in an organization full of masters. That's right, but this Lin Yi can't die at the moment. Once he dies, it will be meaningless. This is not only an order from Dr. Li, but also a consideration of the situation. Seeing the severity of the mysterious man's words, Miss Luan explained seriously, if something happens to Lin Yi, especially if it's in our hands, it's very likely that those people will be driven to desperation and kill themselves. That'll be big trouble. Chapter 4398. Those people? The mysterious man's eyes flashed when he heard this. Of course, he knew who Miss Luan was referring to. At the same time, he also knew how terrifying those people's strength was. Yes, the situation between us and those people is still maintaining a delicate balance. We are confronting each other and don't dare to act rashly. It's not that we can't, but we don't want to. Miss Luan analyzed. Because the mysterious man had been performing tasks on Heaven Stage Island and had never left, she knew more about these things than the mysterious man. The mysterious man couldn't help but be silent. Although he was afraid of Lin Yi, who was rising rapidly, this was only a trivial matter when considered at the level of the entire organization. The situation of the confrontation between the two sides was the most important thing to consider. The current situation is that no matter which side wants to devour the other, the final result will be mutual destruction. So no matter how tense it seems, both sides have actually maintained a tacit understanding. After all, no one is stupid. If there isn't enough fuse, no one will want to inexplicably perish together with the other. Miss Luan deliberately paused and then warned sternly, however, if you make a move against Lin Yi, I am afraid that it will ignite the fuse, and then it will really lead to this unprecedented battle. So, not only can we not deal with Lin Yi now, but we also have to protect him at the critical moment? The mysterious man couldn't help but have a headache. He rubbed his temples with one hand and said, previously, I was asked to protect him because of this? Yes, this matter is kept between you and me. It is a highly confidential matter. It must not be known by a third person except you and me. You know Professor Li's means. Miss Luan reminded him coldly, as for how to treat this Lin Yi in the future and what to do with him, I haven't received any news from Professor Li yet. Let's wait and see. Yes. The mysterious man still had doubts in his heart. He had a vague feeling that something would happen to this hidden danger, but since the higher-ups had already given such an order, he couldn't justify the order because of such an uncertain doubt. Although he could summon the wind and summon the rain on Heaven Stage Island, one word from Professor Li could make him die a miserable death. He had already attached great importance to Lin Yi, but even so, he had never thought that Lin Yi's identity would be so crucial and sensitive. Pulling one hair would affect the whole body. Lin Yi was actually standing between two major forces. An important figure at the heart of the storm. In any case, with Lin Yi's current strength, he alone is far from being able to pose a threat to us. Let's not bother about him for the time being. Our top priority now is to focus on our development plan. This is the foundation that can truly influence the situation in the future. You have to be clear about your priorities. You must not be distracted by a mere Lin Yi. Miss Luan said resolutely. I understand. The mysterious man nodded. In the end, Lin Yi was just a possible hidden danger. There were many geniuses these days, and more than 90% of them were dazzling in the early stage. However, once they entered a higher level, they would lack momentum and eventually fade into the crowd. Lin Yi might not be able to escape this fate. What's more, even if Lin Yi could really grow up, the threat that he could create alone was very limited after all. On the contrary, if this extremely critical human experiment could be done successfully, the organization would be invincible from then on. They could break the balance in one fell swoop. At that time, Lin Yi would not have any time and opportunity to grow at all. The war would end early, and things would be settled. Bring Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang in. Although there was a mess this time, the human experiment still has to continue. Miss Luan ordered. The mysterious man nodded and immediately called Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang, who were guarding outside, in. Miss Luan. Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang greeted her respectfully. The two of them were still trembling with fear, as though they were walking on thin ice. Although Ma Tianlang had pulled Sun Hengbiao out in a moment of desperation, and it seemed to have dispelled the anger of this superior, being in the king's company was like being with a tiger. Who knew what Miss Luan was thinking? If she was really determined to kill the chicken to warn the monkey, the two of them would not be able to escape death. You too, I don't need to say more about how big the mess this time is, right? Miss Luan said expressionlessly, because we did not get the infant ginseng, our experiment was already very difficult. Now that we are at a critical stage, so many test samples suddenly ran away, and even the progress of the entire experiment will be greatly delayed. Miss Luan, we know our mistake. We will go and catch them now. We guarantee that the experiment will not be delayed. Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang quickly knelt down, patted their chests and promised. If they did not do something quickly to atone for their mistake, if Miss Luan wanted to settle the score later, the two of them would really have a bad ending. This time, they were really desperate. Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang had just discussed privately outside, and they were ready to personally go outside to catch the people. With the strength of the two Xianqing stage masters, catching a few gold core stage masters was a piece of cake. As long as there was a suitable target, it was not difficult to catch dozens of them. This approach, in order to prevent suspicion, they would not do it before. Generally, they had to find a reason that was not too suspicious, like those people who were locked in the dungeon before. But now, there was no other way. The human experiment was short of samples. If it was delayed for too long, it was difficult to guarantee that Miss Luan would not be angry. They had to choose the lesser of two evils, so they could only take some risks. Wait, are you two mentally retarded or retarded? Miss Luan frowned. Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang were suddenly stunned, and looked at each other. Before this, we have already caught hundreds of gold core stage masters in the magic cold sea. Although the sea in the South Continent is notoriously chaotic, and no one will intervene even if a few of them are killed in public, but after a long time, have you not thought that it will arouse the suspicion of other big forces? Going out to catch a large number of people at this time, don't you think it is not big enough? Miss Luan looked at the two of them, completely looking at them as if they were looking at idiots. This. Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang's mouth twitched. The two of them were only thinking about how to atone for their mistake. As long as they could get past Miss Luan, who the fuck cares whether those forces will be suspicious or not? In their opinion, these so-called big forces could only show off their power in the local area. In front of the experts, they were nothing. Chapter 4399. The North Island was the first to carry out human experiments. So far, it is also the place with the most missing gold core stage cultivators. Now it has attracted the attention of the top management of the 3 pavilions in the North Island. The incident has been secretly reported to the Law Enforcement Hall for investigation, so the North Island can only stop temporarily. I don't know how long the South Continent can last. The mysterious man stood beside Miss Luan and said lightly. This experiment is our top priority in the Heaven Stage Island, and it is also the key trump card for us to take the initiative in the future. So it must be carried out in strict secrecy and must not be discovered by the outside world. It is not difficult to destroy those local forces on the Heaven Stage Island, but once the news is leaked, everything we have done before will be in vain. Miss Luan nodded. We are ignorant and almost ruined the organization's plan. Please forgive us, Miss Luan. Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang quickly apologized. You are not only ignorant, you are simply stupid. You can't even watch a group of gold core stage cultivators. You are simply trash. Miss Luan said coldly, the fact that these people have run away and that the test samples are broken is secondary. What we should be worried about now is whether the news of our human experiments will spread through these people's mouths, causing panic and attention from other forces. These people who ran away are afraid that the news will leak out and they will be caught again. They should not dare to spread it around in a short time, but after a long time, it is hard to say. The mysterious man also frowned. Don't worry, Miss Luan. I will do my best to hunt them down. When these people were caught, their identities were recorded. With our organization's intelligence network and power, it should not be too difficult to hunt them down. Wang Dayuan hurriedly guaranteed. Well, I will leave this matter to you. Never let the news leak out. If you can't catch them alive, then kill these people. Remember, this is your last chance to save yourself. If you can't do it well, don't come back to see me. Miss Luan said coldly, also, forget about Wu Fu and Lu Bianren. You don't need to catch them. Yes, we will definitely make up for our mistakes. Wang Dayuan and Ma Tianlang were so scared that they were drenched in cold sweat and nodded repeatedly. Although he didn't understand why Wu Fu and Lu Bianren didn't need to capture them, he didn't dare to ask. Although we can't arouse suspicion, we still have to continue the experiment. It just so happens that the dungeon has been destroyed this time. Let's move to another sea area. Anyway, we've captured a lot of people here, and it's not safe to continue. Wang Dayuan, you're the person in charge of the southern continent. I'll leave this matter to you as well. If there's even the slightest mistake, I won't spare you. Young Miss Luan ordered. Yes. Wang Dayuan replied in a low voice. His life was at stake. He had already made up his mind. Even if he had to put aside the matter of the molten branch, he had to do these two things well first. Otherwise, he would not even be able to keep his head. What was the point of being greedy? Secular world, Chu family villa. Ever since He Luan Duan and the Iron Cloak sex people had come menacingly but were easily dealt with by Lin Dongfang. The villa had returned to its former tranquility. In fact, it was even more tranquil than before. This was because all kinds of rumors were spreading like wildfire. It was said that this place was treacherous, and there would be strange phenomena appearing from time to time. Many people in the surrounding area had even moved away. It was better to believe such mysterious things than not. In any case, those who could afford a villa were people who didn't lack money. Who would be willing to give up a good life and stay in this place in fear? For the group of people left by Lin Yi, it wasn't a bad thing that the surrounding people had moved away. No matter what kind of temperament a cultivator originally had, they would often be more accustomed to peace and quiet. Moreover, the unconscious women were left in the villa. They needed a quieter environment. Originally, after settling the previous incident, Lin Dongfang suggested that everyone move to the West Star Mountain village. However, after discussing for a while, they finally declined. With the protection of the great Lin Dongfang, compared to the Chu family villa, moving to the West Star Mountain village was more worry-free. However, everyone had their own lives after all. They hadn't reached the point where they were completely free. It was obviously unrealistic to let them be so isolated from the world. Moreover, after experiencing this incident, even a fierce person like He Luan Duan was scared out of his wits. How could other people be afraid of him? After all, this was only the secular world. Everyone's strength was already standing at the peak of existence. Each one of them was famous. Only others were afraid of them. No one dared to take the initiative to provoke them. Even if someone could really deal with so many heaven stage great perfection experts, if the great Lin Dongfang behind them was drawn out, who could stop him? The lackeys didn't go themselves, and only sent the unconscious girls over. Letting Lin Dongfang and Aunt Xing take care of so many people at once wasn't very justifiable. The old couple still wanted to have a world of their own, and so they just carried on as usual. The girls were still settled in the villa, and the lackeys were still in groups of two, taking turns to guard the place. Today, it was Chen Tian and Ling Shan's turn to guard the place. Ling Shan was in the room taking care of the girls, while Chen Tian, General Wei Wu, and the purple lightning beast were working downstairs. The man and the two beasts were extremely nervous, as if they were facing a great enemy. They were playing landlord. When people were bored, they would always do something stupid. Even practitioners were no exception. Fighting the landlord with two spiritual beasts was something that Chen Tian had never done before, and it wouldn't be repeated in the future. What was even rarer was that his face was plastered with white paper. Playing landlord with two spiritual beasts. He was a human, and he was the one who lost the most. Chen Tian's eyebrows furrowed. He was about to lose again. Just as the atmosphere was getting tense, the doorbell rang. Who is it? Chen Tian paused. The two beasts didn't seem to be alerted at all, and he knew that it was just a normal person, no threat. Express delivery. It was the voice of a guy outside. Express delivery? Chen Tian was even more surprised. He never bought anything online, and even if someone did, they wouldn't send it here. What express delivery? Plus, the things needed in the villa were all bought by them in shifts from the nearby supermarket. Faubert would often send all sorts of things over, so no one would buy express delivery here. At that thought, Chen Tian felt that something was wrong. He gave the two beasts a look and got up to open the door. The two beasts, on the other hand, silently went out from the back door, flanking from both sides. If anything went wrong, one man and two beasts would attack at the same time. Chapter 4400. Carefully opening the door, Chen Tian looked at the person. He really did look like a normal person, dressed like a delivery boy. If he had to point out a difference, it would be that he was more experienced. Where's the delivery? Chen Tian frowned. This is the address, Ocean View Bay Villa Area 8th Villa, Lingshan or Wu Chen Tian. May I ask which one are you? The delivery boy replied faintly. Chen Tian was even more suspicious now. Who the hell are you? If it was someone else's name written on it, it might really be possible that they bought something and filled in the address to save trouble. But since it was written with his own name, it didn't make sense at all. He didn't buy anything. After last time's experience, Chen Tian didn't think that anyone would be so incorrigible as to come looking for trouble, but his first reaction was still to be cautious. This guy was a spy sent by some small fry to spy on him. The deliverman was startled and looked at him as if he was a lunatic. He muttered, I'm just a deliverman. Who else could I be? Let me see the package. Chen Tian observed the man's expression carefully. After making sure that there was nothing wrong, he took the package. After all, he was an expert at the peak of the heaven realm. In the secular world, he was an existence akin to an atomic bomb. Even if the other side had bad intentions, he didn't need to worry, he just needed to instinctively be vigilant. Chen Tian looked down at the package and froze. The handwriting on the package looked familiar, but he thought about it. Wasn't this Boss Lin Yi's handwriting? That wasn't all, but the big stamp on the package made Chen Tian's jaw drop. He almost fainted. What was written on it was Heaven Island Central Express Service Company. What the fuck? This was the first time Chen Tian felt like he was suffocating ever since he became strong. His mind went blank. What kind of delivery company was this? Even the Heavenly Island had appeared. Could it be that Boss Lin Yi had sent the mail from the Heavenly Island? Isn't this a little too mystical? Such an exaggerated thing, the first reaction of a normal person's brain would be. Something wasn't right, and Chen Tian was no exception. He looked at this man suspiciously. Who sent this guy here? This whole setup was pretty good, wasn't it? Are you the recipient or not? Do you want to sign here? If not, I'll return it. The courier man felt goosebumps rising from the bottom of his heart. If it had been someone with a weaker mental fortitude, he would probably have turned around and run away. There was no other way. Nowadays, everyone was afraid of encountering a lunatic. Now that things had come to this, Chen Tian didn't continue thinking about it. After all, everything else could be a lie, but this was Lin E. Boss handwriting. It couldn't be fake, and no matter how he looked at it, this delivery man was indeed just an ordinary person. He didn't seem to have any ill intentions. Sign here. Of course I have to sign for it. Chin Tian quickly said. It didn't matter if this was a trap or not, he had to take a good look at it. In the common world, a near-invincible heavenly grandmaster could ignore a trap or a trap. He didn't really believe it, but what if this really was from Boss Lin Yi? Here, sign here. You can send a reply within 30 days. This is my name card. Call me when you're done, and I'll come to pick it up. The courier man said as he handed the card to Chin Tian. Chin Tian's mouth twitched. What kind of world was this? Even delivery men were giving out name cards. Please call me when you're done. I'm leaving. The courier man nodded to Chin Tian and turned to leave. Wait. Chin Tian was startled and quickly pulled him back. Is there anything else? The delivery man's face was obviously guarded, and he even subconsciously got into a defensive posture. It was obvious that he was treating Chin Tian as a psychopath who might bite at any moment. Ugh. Chin Tian scratched his head awkwardly. What? What company is this? How can you deliver from Sky Class Island all the way here? We're Central Express, haven't you heard of it? The courier man looked at him curiously. Nope, never heard of it. Chin Tian shook his head. He never bought anything online, and no one would send him stuff for no reason. Naturally, he hadn't heard of it. But just because he hadn't heard of it didn't mean that other people hadn't heard of it. In fact, Central Express was a company that had risen recently. Not only were their distribution channels fast and smooth, but their delivery speed was also much faster than other delivery companies. Their prices were also very low, and so in just a few months, Central Express had quickly taken over the market. There was basically no one who didn't know about Central Express. Alright, although our Central Express has only been established for a short period of time, the current market scale is not below any of the top express delivery companies. Our logistics channels are spread all over the world, and there are many express deliveries from overseas, including many small islands, such as Hawaii. Although I have never heard of your heavenly island, I guess it should be a small island, the courier explained. Huh? Hawaii? What does that have to do with Sky Class Island? Chin Tian froze, thinking about it for a while before reacting. This guy didn't even know what Sky Class Island represented, he thought it was some small island in the ocean. I'm sorry, I've never been to Sky Class Island, but I guess it's something like that, the courier man said awkwardly. Does your company have a lot of these? Does it have anything to do with Sky Class Island? Chin Tian didn't want to give up. I'm not too sure about that. I'm just a high-level courier here. I'm usually in charge of international mail and some return receipts. Yours is a return receipt, the courier man said. Return receipt? Chin Tian paused. According to what the courier man said, he could get a reply within a month. He couldn't help but ask, then what kind of return receipt are you talking about? Where do you send it? Is it to the sender's place? Chapter 4401. Since it's sent from Sky Class Island, naturally it's sent back to Sky Class Island. Why else would it be called a receipt? The courier looked at Chin Tian weirdly. He felt that this person was not only crazy, but retarded as well. No, I mean, how did you send the letter to Sky Class Island? Chin Tian quickly asked. In fact, he was still wondering if he was dreaming. Sky Class Island had always been a place of legends, and if it wasn't for Lin Yi's boss passing through the portal, he wouldn't have believed that there was such a mysterious place in the world. But now, something even more unbelievable had happened. This so-called central delivery company was actually able to send letters back and forth between Sky Class Island and the common world. Even someone as knowledgeable as Chin Tian had to slap himself in the face to see if he was really still dreaming. But the handwriting was indeed Lin Yi Boss handwriting. There was no doubt about that. If this was some kind of elaborate scam, then even Lin Yi boss handwriting could be imitated so flawlessly. And so, Qintian's current state of mind could only be described as half believing and half doubting. More accurately, 40% believing and 60% doubting. I'm sorry, I'm not too sure myself. I'm just a high-level courier, and I'm only in charge of the delivery. I don't ask about anything else. Plus, the logistics channel is a company secret, and normal people wouldn't know about it. I can only tell you that the letters are sent back to the headquarters first, and then transferred. The courier shrugged. Is that so? Thank you then. Seeing that he couldn't get any more information out of the courier, Qintian could only give up and let him go after signing the receipt. But although he said that, he didn't plan on letting it go just like that. No matter how he thought about it, this central courier was too suspicious. Sending letters back and forth between Sky-class island and the common world, this was something that would topple anyone's worldview. If traveling back and forth between Sky-class island and the common world was really that easy, then Lin Yi boss wouldn't have had to go through all this trouble with so many top masters. Plus, now that more than a year had passed, if he could really go back and forth freely. Even if boss Lin Yi wasn't done with his business, he would still come back to see everyone, right? Qintian's only thought now was to investigate this express delivery company that popped out of nowhere. But while he was a Sky-class perfected, he wasn't a professional, and if he had to do it himself, he'd have to fight his way up to their doorstep. Trying to investigate without leaving any traces would be a fool's errand. However, just because Qintian couldn't investigate this express delivery center didn't mean that other people couldn't do it. What happened? Speak of the devil. Ling Shan came down from the second floor with a glass of water in her hand. She couldn't help but ask when she saw Qintian staring blankly at a package. Sister-in-law Ling Shan, you came at the right time. I just received an express delivery. Can you see if you can investigate this express delivery company? Qintian said quickly. Ling Shan was from the Supernatural Investigation Department, and investigating a delivery company was a piece of cake. Why do you need to investigate the express delivery company? Ling Shan asked, confused. She looked at Qintian with a weird expression, almost as weird as the guy from before. What kind of logic was this? Investigating the express delivery company? She drank some water right now. Didn't that mean she had to investigate the water factory? No, this express delivery company is weird, very weird. Qintian explained. Weird how? Did they scam you out of money? Ling Shan was getting more and more confused. Not really. Qintian was a Sky-class perfected, and no one in the common world would dare scam him out of money. He didn't lack it either, so he waved the package in his hand and smiled bitterly. It's a package that just came. It's from boss Lin Yi. Pfft. Ling Shan spat out the tea in her mouth, almost falling down the stairs. She didn't even have time to care about the splashing tea, she didn't even know how she got there. Qintian didn't even finish his sentence before the package was snatched away by Ling Shan, and he was splashed with tea at the same time. This. It really is Lin Yi's handwriting. Ling Shan looked at the package, too shocked to say anything. Her eyes started to redden. Tears were welling up in her eyes, but they didn't come out. A whole year had passed. It had been a long time, and there was still no news from Lin Yi. She was worried about Lin Yi's safety every single day, and every single day felt like a year. Admittedly, Lin Yi was already very strong before he left, enough to crush all the top-class practitioners in the common world. But Sky-class Island was different, after all. It was a place of legends. How dangerous would it be? Would they be bullied and besieged because they were unfamiliar with the place? Even if the Heavenly Island really existed, it was still a mystery. Sometimes, Ling Shan would even wake up in the middle of the night because she couldn't help but worry. It had been so long, and he still hadn't come back. Did something happen to Lin Yi? She didn't think that she would receive a package from Lin Yi today, and from Sky-class Island at that. Ling Shan's reaction was the same as Qintian's. blanking out and feeling like her brain was lacking oxygen. Ling Shan, sis-in-law, do you think we should investigate this central delivery? Chen Tian said urgently. As far as he was concerned, there were only two possible outcomes if he could investigate the identity of this express delivery company. One was that the package was fake, and someone had forged Boss Lin's handwriting. That way, they'd be able to follow the clues and see through the scam. The other possibility was that the package was real, and that Lin Yi's boss had sent it personally from Sky Class Island. The meaning behind this was very tempting. If this central delivery really could travel freely between Sky Class Island and the common world, then wouldn't they be able to go to Sky Class Island and find Boss Lin Yi if they could see through their methods? Chen Tian's thought was logical, and Ling Shan, naturally, thought of it as well. She didn't act impulsively. No matter what, let's gather everyone first. All right. Chen Tian couldn't wait to call everyone, leaving Ling Shan staring at Lin Yi's handwriting alone. Chapter 4402. She, of course, wanted to read the letter as soon as possible, but it wasn't appropriate to do so before everyone was gathered. She was Lin Yi's girlfriend, but if this letter was really written by Lin Yi, then it would be for everyone, not just her. As a result, the letter had to be opened in front of everyone. Ling Shan was feeling 100 claws scratching at her heart, but she could still hold it in for a little while. After receiving Chen Tian's call and knowing that Lin Yi had sent a package from Sky Class Island, everyone's first reaction was that this guy was either messing with them or had gone crazy. No one believed him. However, even if he didn't believe it, in less than 2 hours, everyone had already gathered at the Chu clan's villa. Han Xiaopa, Fatty Lai, Kang Xiaobo, Chen Yutian, Cheng Yi, Su Shihan, Zhao Qikuan, Zhao Qijiu, Pai Jishan, Pai Jihai, Yu Bing, Ying Ziyu, and the others. Other than Lin Dongfang and Aunt Qing who stayed at West Star Village, everyone from Lin Yi's group was present. The reason why they were able to arrive so quickly was not only because of their strong teamwork, but also because of the after effects from last time. Everyone was scared by the sudden attack from He Luo Dan and the others, and it was fortunate that Lin Dongfang came out to save them. Otherwise, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Lin Yi's boss went to Sky Class Island and entrusted these ladies to them. If anything were to happen to them, how would they be able to face Lin Yi? After the previous incident, everyone had learned their lesson. Although they still took turns to guard in pairs, they would not go too far if there was no special need. Once something happened, they would be able to rush to the villa within 2 hours, just like what was happening now. The first thing they did when they arrived at the villa was to drag Wu Chintian out. First, they'd beat the crap out of this guy. But when they saw the package in Ling Shan's hands, especially when they saw Lin Yi's signature on it, they couldn't help but take in a cold breath. Is this real? Everyone couldn't help but look at each other in disbelief, and they had a horrified expression as if they had seen a ghost. It could be real, it could also be fake. No matter what, this delivery center is definitely suspicious. We need to investigate this thoroughly. Chen Tian said confidently. Everyone frowned and thought about it. All of them nodded in agreement. That was indeed the case. Regardless of whether it was true or not, there was a need to investigate this express delivery company that had suddenly appeared. If the express delivery was fake, then it meant that there was definitely someone with ulterior motives behind it. They were using this express delivery in Boss Lin Yi's handwriting to make a fuss. If the express delivery was real, then it was even more necessary to investigate the identity of the Central Express Delivery Company. It was actually able to freely travel between Heaven's Stage Island and the secular world. If that's the case, I'll have to trouble sister-in-law Ling Shan to step in. Everyone turned to Ling Shan. The package from Sky Class Island was evidently a supernatural incident, and the Occult Investigation Department had the authority to investigate paranormal happenings. She was the most suitable person to handle this. I'll contact the Supernatural Investigation Bureau right away and let them investigate. Ling Shan nodded. She cared about Lin Yi's safety more than anyone else, and this was something she couldn't pass on to anyone else. Then what about this express delivery? Should we open it? The group looked at each other. Almost all of them were Sky Class full mastery, and in the secular world, they shouldn't be afraid of anything. However, the arrival of this express delivery was really unimaginable. If it was anyone else, no matter how dense their nerves were, they would still have some doubts in their heart. Of course we have to open it. Ling Shan, Cheng Yi, Shirhan, and Ziyu said together. They were the bolder ones on this matter, and the reason was simple. They cared about Lin Yi the most. This express delivery might very well be a trap, but what if it wasn't? Even if there was only a 1 in 10,000 chance, they wouldn't just leave it like this. After all, Lin Yi sending a letter back wasn't something that would happen in real life, but it was something they would fantasize about in their dreams. Plus, their dreams had turned into reality. They couldn't just leave the door open because of a little bit of worry. Alright, but before we open it, we need to take precautions first. Yu Tian and the others looked at each other. As men, they couldn't be more cowardly than these girls. Plus, they really wanted to know what was in this express delivery. With their Sky Class full mastery, bombs and the like posed no threat to them. Plus, this express delivery was flat, and it didn't look like it could contain a bomb. If there were no surprises, there should be a letter inside. But that didn't mean there was no danger. If this was a trap, then the letter might have some sort of colorless and odorless poison on it. They might be Sky Class full mastery, but if it really was some sort of poison, they might not be able to survive it. Just to be safe, Ling Shan put on a pair of gloves with excellent insulation, the uniform of the Supernatural Investigation Department. Only then did she slowly open the express delivery under everyone's gaze. The group held their breaths, as expected. What they saw wasn't something dangerous, but a normal piece of stationery. If they had to point out the difference between it and other stationery, it would be that it was more refined and elegant. This is Lin Yi's handwriting, and the way he speaks is his usual style. There's no mistaking it, it's Lin Yi's handwriting. Ling Shan took a quick look and was overjoyed. If this was a trap, imitating Lin Yi's handwriting, that was possible, but even the way he spoke wasn't realistic. This meant that Lin Yi had definitely written this letter. This meant that this express delivery company that popped out of nowhere could really travel between Sky Class Island and the common world. This was unbelievable. Really? Everyone's eyes lit up when they heard that, their faces filled with joy. They hurriedly urged Lin Yi, "What did Boss Lin say up there? How's he doing? Don't rush, I'm not done reading it yet. I'll give it to you guys right away." Ling Shan was afraid that they wouldn't be able to hold themselves back and would snatch it from them. She didn't have time to read it, so she quickly scanned through the letter and passed it to the group, passing it around. The group read it one by one, and those who couldn't wait came over to read it together or pestered Ling Shan to tell them the contents. They couldn't help but sigh as they listened. Chapter 4403. Without a doubt, the letter that everyone was reading was the one that Lin Yi wrote at the Middle Island auction. He didn't lack spirit jade anyway, and he just wanted to give it a try. Even if it didn't reach them, Lin Yi wouldn't feel that it was too much of a pity. However, even he himself wouldn't have thought that this letter would actually reach them. For safety reasons, the contents of the letter didn't touch on any confidential information. Basically, Lin Yi told her everything that had happened since he came to Sky Class Island, from when he first entered the welcoming pavilion to when he went to Central Island, including meeting Tian Chan and Shueli, from the beginning to the end. The reason why Lin Yi didn't mind the details was because he wanted to let everyone know that he was safe and sound on Sky Island. On the other hand, he wanted everyone to have a general impression of Sky Island. After all, one's vision determined one's height. As practitioners, with Lin Yi's help, they would reach the same heights one day. Perhaps in order to increase their strength, they would have to go to Sky Island to train. It wasn't a bad thing to let them be mentally prepared now. Other than that, Lin Yi also mentioned in the letter that he already knew where Zhang Liju was, and he was trying his best to find him. One day, he would be able to go back and save the girls. He told everyone not to worry too much and not to worry too much. At the end of the letter, Lin Yi naturally asked about everyone's situation. After all, he already knew that this was a letter from the Middle Island auction. In theory, he should be able to receive a reply from everyone. Just like how everyone was worried about him, Lin Yi, who was on Sky Island, was also worried about his women and followers in the common world. The Chu Villa, which was usually peaceful, was bustling for an entire afternoon. Everyone read Lin Yi's letter once, and it wasn't enough. Ling Shan and the others even fought to read it a second time. Because it was his first time reading, it was very rough, and it was so rare to receive a letter from Lin Yi, so he had to read every word and sentence carefully. At the same time, those who couldn't get the chance to read it a second time were all excited, and they discussed the situation that Lin Yi mentioned in the letter. When it came to the exciting part, everyone was so excited that they couldn't wait to recreate the scene. Only then would they be able to enjoy themselves. After reading the letter, everyone's yearning for the Heaven Step Island had become even more intense. They were all looking forward to when boss Lin Yi would return and bring them to the legendary Heaven Step Island. Everyone stayed together until night time and did not disperse. They were still enthusiastically discussing what they had seen and heard in Lin Yi's letter. Since they knew that boss Lin Yi was fine, they didn't have to worry about him. Their original worries could now be completely put down. They also became more motivated and looked forward to the future. And in this process, Ling Shan's phone rang all of a sudden, and everyone shut their mouths as they stared at Ling Shan, waiting for her to finish the call. Everyone. The Occult Investigation Bureau's investigation on the delivery center is out. Ling Shan said to the group. How is it? How is it? Chen Tian and the others asked impatiently. Since boss Lin Yi's letter was real, it meant that the courier center really had eyes and ears everywhere. This meant that the Central Express Delivery Center was really omnipotent and could freely travel between the heavenly island and the secular world. Of course, everyone wanted to know the details of such a magical express delivery company. I've already told them to send the information to my phone. Let's take a look. Ling Shan took out a projector and projected the information on the wall, making everyone gather in a circle to study it. After all, the Supernatural Investigation Bureau had an official background, and it was not an ordinary department. It had a lot of authority. The information that everyone saw was the result of collecting all kinds of information through many channels, including all kinds of public and private, and even some that could not be seen in the light. They didn't find anything suspicious after reading through the information. This was completely different from what they had expected. As a mysterious courier company that could connect to Heaven Step Island, there was no doubt that the courier center was carrying secrets that couldn't be told to anyone. However, after reading so much detailed information, everyone realized that although the logistics network of this express delivery company was indeed accessible and much more powerful than ordinary express delivery companies, other than that, there didn't seem to be anything magical about it. This courier center that popped out of nowhere really has a lot of secrets. The group looked at each other. Even the investigation department couldn't find out anything about it. This was no small matter. But the more it was like this, the more it proved that it wasn't normal. Think about it, if it was just a normal courier company, how could they escape the eyes and ears of the investigation department? How could they send a courier from Heaven Step Island? Wait a minute, this courier center is a foreign company, and its headquarters is in Europe? Chen Tian pointed at one of the documents, surprised. Express delivery companies were different from other industries. Only after they had taken root in the local area could they expand into the market and gain recognition. Therefore, many of them were local logistics companies. Everyone thought that the sudden rise of the Central Express Delivery Company should be no exception, but they did not expect it to be a completely foreign company, and its headquarters was in Europe. Oh, right. The group reacted, and raised a new question. Who's the founder and boss? The information doesn't say. I'll get someone to look into it right now. Ling Shan realized this as well, and called the investigation department. The group had a feeling that if they could find out who this courier center's boss was, they might be able to find out who it was. After a while, the results came out. Firewolf Group. The 4 simple words made everyone look at each other, and it took a while for them to speak. There's something fishy about this. Looks like we'll have to contact Dafeng Bro about this. Ling Shan said, rubbing her chin. The group nodded as well. Red Conches and Firewolves were one, so Dafeng Bro could be considered as someone who had infiltrated Firewolf Group. Only he would be able to get to the bottom of this. Chapter 4404. None of the people present could hold themselves back after seeing Dafeng Bro's unexpected appearance. They were all laughing so hard they couldn't stand up straight. In the end, it was Ling Shan who came out and explained everything to Dafeng Bro, passing around Lin Yi's handwritten letter. Dafeng Bro was no less shocked than the others when he read the contents of Lin Yi's letter. He was alone in the Red Conch, and it had been a long time since he received any news from Lin Yi. This feeling of not knowing when the end would come was much more difficult to bear than the others. Fortunately, Lin Yi had left him the antidote before he left, so he didn't have to worry about his life. He was grateful to Lin Yi even now. How is it? Do you know anything about this central delivery? Ling Shan and the others asked impatiently. I'm not sure. I'm only in charge of a part of Red Conch's business, and it's hard for me to get involved in other matters. This central delivery seems to have been established not too long ago, and I don't have much to do with it. But I can go back and try to investigate, Dafeng Bro said. Is that so? Everyone couldn't help feeling disappointed. If they could figure out the ins and outs of the Central Express Delivery Company, they might be able to figure out how to freely travel between Heaven Stage Island and the secular world. This matter was extremely important, but it seemed that it wouldn't be so easy to figure it out. Don't be too dejected. I have some power there, and I can't guarantee that I'll be able to get the core information, but we can at least try. No matter what, we'll be able to get some inside information, Dafeng Bro said to the others. Okay, we'll leave it to you then. The others nodded. In order to avoid suspicion, Dafeng Bro didn't stay in the villa for too long. He left under the cover of the night. Dafeng Bro was very efficient, and the others didn't have to wait long. Before they could leave the villa, Dafeng Bro sent a message the next morning. The express from Heaven Island is said to come from a small island in the sea near Las Vegas. That sea is the base of the Fire Wolf Group, and the core island is called Fire Wolf New Island. The express was sent from there, but it was sent from there before. I don't know. Looking at the message sent by Big Brother phone, everyone could not help but fall silent. In fact, according to this inference, it was easy to infer that the express delivery should have arrived at Heaven Island before arriving at the new Fire Wolf Island. Although this speculation was shocking, it seemed to be the most reasonable one. In other words, in this new Fire Wolf Island, there was a large number of people. There was a high possibility that there was a special passage connected to Heavenly Island. However, even if they were quite confident in this conjecture, there was nothing they could do to determine whether it was true or not. Only by seeing it with their own eyes would they know. However, the new Fire Wolf Island was the base of the Fire Wolf gang. They couldn't just barge in with force, right? The strength of Heaven Realm Great Circle was enough to move unhindered in the secular world. However, they were not arrogant and conceited people. They had never felt that they were invincible in the world. Moreover, the previous incident had already given them a wake-up call. If Lin Dongfang had not appeared at the last moment to save the day, it would be hard to say how many people would have survived. Plus, Sky Class Full Mastery was only a threat in the common world. It was just like what Lin Yi said in the letter. Sky Class Full Mastery was only a threat in the common world on the mysterious Sky Class Island. It was just like what Lin Yi said. Since the new Fire Wolf Island could be connected to Heaven Island, who knew what kind of masters were hiding there? If there was a master from Heaven Island, even if there was only one, it was not something the people here could handle. Chen Tian and the others may be hot-blooded people, but they weren't brainless. They wouldn't do something as stupid as charging in without knowing the enemy's background. Ling Shan, sister-in-law, since we have a clear target, it seems that we can only trouble the secret investigation department again. If we don't know the truth, we can't act rashly. The others looked at each other and said cautiously. Before Lin Yi left, he gave them the most important task, which was to protect the girls who were unconscious. Other than that, everything else was secondary. If they acted rashly to investigate the new island, or even caused trouble because of it, it would be putting the cart before the horse, and the loss would not be worth it. Yeah, that's the only thing we can do for now, but don't get your hopes up. If it were within Huaxia, the occult investigation department would be able to investigate a little, but this island is a small island outside of Huaxia, and it's very secretive. Even the occult investigation department wouldn't be able to extend their reach that far. We'd be thankful if we could get some outside information, Ling Shan said. Right now, it's better to know as much as we can. Knowing some clues is better than not knowing anything. Although it's not the time for us to go against them completely, it's best to plan ahead. Only then can we be prepared. Be careful, don't let them find out. Yu Bing said in a low voice. Yes, Boss Lin Yi didn't tell us to deal with this courier or the new island behind it. Even if we want to investigate them, we need to be careful and not force our way in. We don't want unnecessary trouble. The others nodded in agreement. In any case, protecting the unconscious women was the most important thing. Otherwise, if they were not careful and provoked a strong enemy that they couldn't deal with, then it would be really difficult. They couldn't really hide in the West Star Mountain village and let Lin Dongfang, the great god, come out again, right? They were Boss Lin Yi's people, but they were still masters in their own right. They didn't have that thick of a skin to ask the old man for help whenever they needed it. Don't worry, everyone. I'll personally go back to the secret investigation department to keep an eye on the island. Safety first, I promise we won't alert them. Ling Shan nodded. Oh, right, I almost forgot something important. The courier guy said that the letter Lin Yi boss sent us was a receipt. This means that we can reply to Lin Yi boss and have this courier deliver it to boss Lin Yi. Chen Tian slapped his forehead. We can reply? Why didn't you say so earlier? The group was surprised and happy, but their faces turned unfriendly. They grabbed Chen Tian and started beating him up. Luckily, they hadn't left yet. Otherwise, they'd missed this important chance to send a message to boss Lin Yi. Chapter 4405. This time, even Ling Shan, Cheng Yi, Su Shihan, and Ziyu didn't let him go. They didn't care about their image as girls at all, rushing up and punching Chen Tian. It was a scene that made people's hair stand on end. If Lin Yi was here, he'd have to think twice about messing with these girls in the future. In less than 3 minutes, Chen Tian was beaten beyond recognition. In the chaos, his clothes were torn to shreds, and his hair was a mess. He looked pitiful, as if he'd just been abused. The crowd was laughing so hard that they almost collapsed on their stomachs. Brothers and sisters, please go easy on me, or I'll call the police. Chen Tian said with a wronged face. Fortunately, he was a physical practitioner, so he couldn't be beaten to death. Of course, the crowd wouldn't really kill him, but this image was too embarrassing. If someone took a picture of him and posted it, how would he face people in the future? You deserve it. It's your fault for delaying the military, delaying such an important message until now. You're not reliable at all. Everyone cursed, not a single one of them sympathizing with him. It had been almost an entire day since they'd received the package. A normal person would have said it right away, but Chen Tian waited until now. Who else would they beat up if not him? It's just a bit late, it's not like I really forgot about it. What are you guys so nervous about? Chen Tian scratched his head, speechless. He'd been focused on this package ever since he'd received it, thinking about what was going on behind the scenes. In fact, if it weren't for that flash of inspiration, he might have forgotten about it just like that, a whole 20 hours, and you call that a bit late? Everyone scoffed and ignored him. They gathered in a circle, unable to conceal their excitement as they discussed, come. Let's talk about it, what should we write back to Boss Lin? It's simple, everyone write one and send it out together? Fatty Lai suggested. Yes, everyone write one, write as many as you want. I've decided, I'll write 50,000 words first. Ziyu said with pride. 50,000? Sister Ziyu, do you think you're writing a novel? That's right. 50,000 words is too much. 50,000 words written on paper is too thick. They might not even be willing to deliver it. I think 30,000 words should be enough. Shirhan said seriously. Everyone fainted. His 30,000 words were a thick stack. How much better was it compared to Ziyu's 50,000? Moreover, there were so many people present. If each of them wrote 30,000 words, it would add up to hundreds of thousands of words. How thick would the paper be? The courier service would probably go crazy, right? 30,000 words is too much. Everyone should be more realistic. Otherwise, even if Lin Yi received it, he'd have to go into isolation for a couple of days just to read it. Ling Shan couldn't help but laugh. That's a lot of words. Ling Shan couldn't help but laugh. Exactly. Sister-in-law Ling Shan is right. Everyone nodded in agreement and asked, what do you think the upper limit should be? About that. Ling Shan thought about it seriously for a long time before saying slowly, how about 20,000? Holy shit. Everyone collapsed, not sure if they should be laughing or crying. At the end of the day, it turns out that even you have 10,000 characters at the beginning? I can't help it, it's been a year. There's too many things I want to say. Ling Shan stuck her tongue out, embarrassed. It had been a whole year, and the things that had happened during that time were too many to talk about. Plus, women were emotional creatures, and no matter what happened, they'd always want to share it with the man they loved. Ling Shan was no exception. Because of the length of the letter, everyone gathered together and discussed enthusiastically for an entire hour. Finally, they reluctantly reached a consensus. One by one, they got a pen and paper, found a place to sit, and began to write. The atmosphere was very tense, as if a big exam was approaching. As for what they were going to write, they'd have to wait for Lin Yi to receive it on Sky-class Island. Of course, there was also the possibility that he wouldn't receive it. For example, the letter they were going to write might be too heavy and thick, and the courier service wouldn't send it. Sky-class Island, Nanzhou, Linghai. Devil Ling City, which was already bustling with noise, was especially crowded today. The highly anticipated escort agency event of the South Continent had officially begun today. It was a festival in name, and it didn't sound like it had anything to do with most people. However, the truth was that in the chaotic Nanzhou seas, the escort agencies were far more than just a normal logistics organization. Due to the lack of a unified and powerful official force, many escort agencies played the role of maintaining order in the many seas of Antarctica to a large extent in addition to escorting escorts. Their existence was an indispensable deterrent to all sorts of small fries, including pirates. This was the truth. Although the South Continent seas were all chaotic places, there was still a huge difference in the degree of chaos between them. Usually, the sea regions with powerful escort agencies were relatively stable, while the sea regions with weak escort agencies, or even no escort agencies, were extremely chaotic. For example, the Linhai Seas had the Four Seas Escort Agency, and so the order there had always been the best out of all the seas in Nanzhou. Another example was the Wayark Sea. Although the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, which was ranked 5th, was not as orderly as the Linhai Seas, at least it wasn't out of control. However, there weren't any decent and powerful escort agencies in the Zhenduan Sea. Hence, its degree of chaos was far beyond that of the Dark Magic Sea region and the Verdant Arc Sea region. It had always been a gathering place for many pirates. Even if pirates brazenly discussed robberies, no one dared to be a busybody. This was because 7 out of 10 people in the vicinity were pirates, while the remaining 3 were brokers who specialized in selling stolen goods to pirates. Hence, without the existence of these escort agencies, the situation in the many seas would be far more chaotic and cruel than it was now. It was very likely that it would be in a mess, and even a slightly more prosperous city like the Lenghai Sea would be nowhere to be seen. Hence, the Nanzhou Escort Agency Festival, which was held once every 5 years, gathered all the most powerful escort agencies in the Nanzhou seas. It wasn't a simple gathering of the industry, but a core festival that everyone in the Nanzhou seas paid close attention to. Chapter 4406. Not only would its outcome determine the ranking of the major escort agencies, but it would also affect the future power structure of the southern continent's sea region. In the coming year, which sea region was safer and which sea region was more dangerous would depend on the direction of this grand event. At this moment, people from all walks of life had already gathered in the vast magic cold plaza. At a glance, it looked majestic, and there were all kinds of factions present. Many of them were invited to attend the ceremony, and many of them had come to watch the excitement. However, the most conspicuous group of people present were the escorts from the escort agencies. As Lin Yi looked at the dazzling array of escort agency flags and listened to Qi Wenhan's explanation, he couldn't help but be secretly surprised. Although the Southern Continent's escort agency grand event was hosted by the 5 major escort agencies, there were actually 32 agencies participating. In other words, almost all the escort agencies in the Southern Continent's sea region were present. The Southern Continent's escort agency grand event truly lived up to its name. There was only one final objective of this grand meeting, and that was to decide on the 5 strongest escort agencies. There were 32 escort agencies present here, yet they had to compete for a mere 5 spots. The difficulty of this was obvious. Previously, Lin Yi had only been thinking about Wu Baoliang and hadn't paid much attention to the Southern Continent's escort agency grand event. However, it seemed that it wouldn't be easy for the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency to maintain its position in the top 5. In the middle of the plaza, a temporary stage had been set up. It wasn't big, and there were only 5 seats on it. However, the people in each seat sat upright. Although they didn't make a sound, the aura of these 5 people was enough to suppress the entire crowd. The demeanor of experts was unmistakable. Among them, Qi Wenhan's father, Qi Mingyuan, was impressively present. Needless to say, this was the judging panel formed by the 5 major escort agencies. Thank you, everyone, for your support. I am the 4 Seas Escort Agency's head escort, Boundless Sea, representing the 5 major escort agencies. I pay my respects to all the heroes and warriors present here. The burly man sitting in the middle of the 5 suddenly stood up and cupped his hands. His voice was like a great bell and rumbled like thunder. It actually drowned out the clamor of the crowd, and the plaza quieted down. Everyone's gazes were involuntarily focused on the chief escort of the 4 Seas Escort Agency. Meanwhile, the escorts from the 32 escort agencies began to rub their palms together in eagerness as they waited for the official duel to begin. This was the best stage for them to show off. The South Continent's Escort Agency Grand Gathering was not only for the competition between the 5 major escort agencies, but also the highest stage for the competition between the escorts. To them, the importance of this grand gathering was akin to the ancient imperial examinations for scholars. It was directly related to their future. If he could perform outstandingly in this conference, even if he was unknown before, his value would definitely skyrocket. It was even possible for him to become the center of attention and enter the upper echelons of the escort agency. On behalf of the 5 major escort agencies, I announce the 37th South Continent Escort Agency Grand Assembly. Begin. Boundless Sea was clearly someone who disdained wasting words. He didn't bother with any pleasantries. He got straight to the point without saying anything. Let's get to the point. The crowd erupted into thunderous cheers. They admired Boundless Sea's direct and efficient style. To put it bluntly, Boundless Sea's style was very straightforward. Aside from the escorts from the 32 escort agencies, the rest of the crowd had gathered here purely to watch the escorts from the major escort agencies fight to the death. They wanted to see the intense scene where blood was shed with every strike, not the nonsense of those so-called big shots. If Boundless Sea had come up to give his report for an hour, then the majority of the crowd would probably have left. Even the escorts from the escort agencies would have started to doze off. The South Continent Escort Agency Grand Assembly has been held for so many years. The purpose of holding it is very clear. I believe everyone here knows this as well. It's to take advantage of this rare opportunity to conduct an examination together and improve the escorting skills of the escort agencies. Boundless Sea paused, then turned to the group of escorts and said in a low voice, "Escorting escorts is your main job. It's also the foundation for your survival. If you can't even do this well, what face do you have to be an escort agency? What right do you have to establish yourselves in the South Continent seas?" So in this Grand Assembly, all the competitions will revolve around escorting escorts. I believe no one has any objections to this, right? The escorts from the 32 escort agencies below the stage nodded in agreement. This was a grand event for South Continent's escort agencies. As escorts, they naturally had to compete in escorting goods. Otherwise, they couldn't possibly be asked to compete in image, temperament, or embroidery, right? It wasn't like they were competing for Invincible East. Very good. Next, Head Escort Zhao Bufan of the Divine Wind Escort Agency will announce the rules for the first round of the competition. Boundless Sea nodded slightly to the middle-aged man sitting to his right and then sat back down. Everyone, the judges have decided that the content of the first round of the South Continent Escort Agency Grand Assembly will be a simulation of escorting escorts that is closely related to everyone's daily life. Escort robbery. Zhao Bufan continued Boundless Sea's words. Everyone's spirits rose when they heard this. Escort robbery. Just from the name alone, they could guess that even though it was the first round of the competition, it definitely wouldn't be easy. However, they were already mentally prepared. After all, in the past South Continent Escort Agency Grand Assembly, the competition was extremely bloody and cruel. There had never been a lack of deaths. This was also the usual style of the South Continent Sea. Otherwise, if such a highly anticipated escort agency Grand Assembly turned out to be a small scuffle without bloodshed, such a greenhouse competition that couldn't withstand the test, so what if they ended up as the top 5 escort agencies? Could they scare those vicious pirates? In the Southern Continent Sea, there were only 2 things that could truly obtain the right to speak. One was strength, and the other was fresh blood. Without either one of them, it would be impossible to suppress those lawless pirates, and they would only be reduced to a complete joke. The rules are very simple. Every escort agency will come out according to the order in which they drew lots. They will send out 4 Golden Core escorts to escort the escorts. The agency that drew the corresponding lot will also send out 4 Golden Core escorts to escort the escorts, Zhao Bufan announced. To put it plainly, it was a 4v4 team battle. However, what made Lin Yi curious was, why was it limited to Golden Core experts? This rule is actually very normal. Even the most powerful 4 Seas escort agency has most of its escorts at the Golden Core stage. It's not that they can't afford to invite nascent soul experts, it's just that if they have to trouble nascent soul experts to escort normal escorts, there won't be much profit for the agency. There's also no need for it, Qi Wenhan explained. Chapter 4407. I see. Lin Yi nodded his head in enlightenment. Although Heaven's Equal Security had a nascent soul expert like Housekeeper Song, he was only there to scare people and wouldn't personally go out to deliver the goods. Since it was a simulation, it naturally had to be restored to the most realistic situation. Usually, it was the Golden Core stage escort masters who were sent out. Naturally, it was the Golden Core stage escort masters who were sent out this time. Otherwise, it would be meaningless if all the major escort agencies sent out their strongest experts. If they sent nascent soul experts, even if they won, they wouldn't be able to display the true skills of the agencies. The 5 agencies that won in the end wouldn't be able to convince the public. The time limit is 1 incense stick's worth of time. If the escort party can successfully defend the escorted goods within the time limit, and all 4 escorts survive and annihilate their opponents, they will get 80 points. For every person the escort party loses, 10 points will be deducted. For every person the escort party survives, 10 points will also be deducted. On the other hand, if the guard doesn't manage to defend the item, they will get 0 points. On the other hand, the robber will get 80 points. With the same logic, for every person they lose, 10 points will be deducted. For every person the enemy survives, 10 points will be deducted. In this round, the 32 agencies will each get 1 chance to defend and 1 chance to rob. When added together, it will be the total points. Do you all understand the rules? Zhao Bufan said to everyone. Yes, sir. The group of escorts replied in unison with great tacit understanding. This rule sounds a little cruel. Lin Yi, on the other hand, couldn't help but be speechless. The rules of the first round of the tournament weren't so much a competition, it was more like killing each other. Moreover, they were using headcount points, forcing you to kill each other. To sum it up, whether it was the side guarding or the side robbing, there was only one general principle for the armed escorts who were about to participate in the competition. While ensuring that they survived, they had to try their best to kill their opponents. Only then would they be able to get high points. Lin Yi had participated in all sorts of tests and competitions ever since he came to Sky Class Island, and while competition was encouraged as well, he'd never been in a competition like this, where he was forced to kill his opponent with a head count. All of this could only be attributed to the environment. Compared with the killing competition at present, the trial competitions of the 3 pavilions in the North Island were simply like playing house in a greenhouse. They were too comfortable and unchallenging. No one knew if it was an illusion or if it was real, but from this moment on, the guards of the 32 escort agencies suddenly had an additional layer of chilling killing intent on their bodies. The atmosphere suddenly became unusually solemn, as if they were soldiers who were about to go into battle. Layers of dark clouds floated across the sky, pressing down on everyone's heads. Brother Qi, what are your plans? Lin Yi looked at Qi Wenhan, then turned his head to look at the surrounding escort agencies. Since the rules of the South Continent Escort Agency Grand Event were different every year, they had only just learned of the rules. The leaders of the various escort agencies were busy arranging their troops and formations at this moment. This was the first round of the competition. Whether they could win the first battle would directly determine the momentum of the escort agency and indirectly affect the direction of the competition. Therefore, it was of utmost importance and could not be lost. Hearing Lin Yi's question, the guards of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency all looked at Qi Wenhan. Chief Escort Qi Mingyuan was the judge on the stage, so the arrangement of the troops fell on the young master, Qi Wenhan. Everyone's future was naturally in Qi Wenhan's hands. That's a good question, Brother Ling. Although the format of the competition is different in every South Continent Escort Agency festival, the escort agencies that achieve good results in the end all use the same strategy, without exception. Qi Wenhan smiled mysteriously. Oh. Lin Yi could not help but be interested. The strategy is actually very simple. With a great reward, there will be brave men. Qi Wenhan glanced at the surrounding guards, then lowered his voice and revealed to Lin Yi, Old Master has already told me before that this competition will not be stingy with the reward, so I have been preparing for it for a long time. Otherwise, how could it have taken so long to scrape together the 300,000 spiritual jades that we paid to the Hong Consortium last time? Lin Yi suddenly understood. So it turned out that he had really been prepared for this long ago. Everyone, listen up. In this round of competition, regardless of whether you participate in guarding or robbing, regardless of the outcome, anyone from our agency who participates in the competition will receive a reward of 50,000 spiritual jades. Qi Wenhan announced to the crowd. As soon as he finished speaking, the guards of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency all gasped. Even Lin Yi was a little shocked. 50,000 spiritual jades was not a small sum. Many escorts would not be able to save up such a sum even after working hard for more than 10 years. The Qi father and son were sparing no expense. But thinking about it carefully, in such a cruel competition, every participant was fighting with their lives on the line. Once they stepped into the competition, it meant that they would most likely die. This was not a joke. If there were no benefits, who would be willing to risk their lives for no reason? Only with great rewards would there be death warriors. Not only the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, but the other escort agencies also gave generous rewards to the participants. In order to obtain a good ranking in this year's South Continent Escort Agency Grand Meet, this was the most basic of sacrifices. Of course, for the various escort agencies, this kind of sacrifice was not completely without a reward. On the contrary, if they could win in the competition, or even make a name for themselves, the rewards were far more generous than what the average person could imagine. This was not because of the competition's rewards, but because the large chambers of commerce that had been specially invited to watch the competition had all made verbal promises in advance. Many of their large orders would be signed on the spot with the winning agency. At that time, the benefits involved would not be as simple as a mere few tens of thousands of spiritual jades. It would absolutely be an astronomical figure that was sufficient to affect the rise and fall of any escort agency, and even the 5 great escort agencies were no exception. Not only were these orders shocking profits, but they also directly determined the market share. It could be said to be extremely important. Therefore, the father and son, Qi Mingyuan and Qi Wenhan, were sparing no expense in order to preserve their influence. 50,000 spiritual jades. In the face of such a generous reward, the escorts of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency began to breathe heavily. Although every other escort agency had also offered generous rewards, there were only a few that had reached the amount of 50,000 spiritual jades. After all, compared to the Heavens Equal Escort Agency, which was one of the 5 major escort agencies, the other escort agencies were still lacking in capital. 50,000 spiritual jades per person, including the 4 guards and 4 robbers in the first round of the competition, would add up to a total of 400,000 spiritual jades. This was equivalent to the annual profit of those escort agencies. How many of them could afford it? After all, he had been holed up in the inn for the past few days, making all sorts of preparations. These efforts were not in vain. Brother Ling, what do you think? Qi Wenhan turned his head to ask Lin Yi. Although he already had a conclusion in his heart, he still had to consider Lin Yi's opinion. After all, Lin Yi was his most important trump card. He, Brother Qi, you are the commander-in-chief. How you arrange the troops is up to you. Whoever you say should be the one to go. Why are you asking me? Lin Yi couldn't help but laugh. With his strength. In the gold core stage, he was an invincible existence. For others, the first round of the competition was a narrow escape, but for him, there was no pressure at all. It was up to him whether to go or not. It all depended on whether or not Qi Wenhan had made such arrangements. If there weren't enough people, Lin Yi wouldn't have any objections even if he went up to make up the numbers. Haha. 2 heads are better than 1. Brother Ling, you can also help me out. How about it? Brother Ling, are you interested in going up to play? Qi Wenhan laughed heartily. For Lin Yi, this kind of competition was really just for fun. It depends on how Brother Qi arranges it. If I'm needed, then I'll go up. Lin Yi smiled faintly, then paused and said, but I'm more concerned about the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. Will Wu Baoliang go up in the first round of the competition? If he goes up, Brother Qi, you have to leave a spot for me. Wu Baoliang was the secret military advisor of the Poison Eye mercenary group. His status was almost equal to Cheng Haonan's. Now that the Poison Eye mercenary group was an important external aid for the Dragon Boat Escort Agency, Wu Baoliang was to the Dragon Boat Escort Agency just like Lin Yi was to the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. He was definitely a powerful trump card. In order to compete for the position of the top 5 escort agencies, if the Dragon Boat Escort Agency was determined to gain the upper hand in the first round of the competition, it was very likely that they would send out Wu Baoliang. Lin Yi's original intention for this South Continent Escort Agency Grand Meeting was to fight against Wu Baoliang. Even if he might not be able to draw the Dragon Boat Escort Agency, he would not let go of this chance. Otherwise, if he could not get rid of Wu Baoyang in this meeting, it would not be so easy to deal with this guy in the future. Yes, before the drawing begins, each escort agency has to submit the list of participating escorts to the judging panel. I'll go tell the old man and ask him to pay attention. If there is one, I'll report Brother Ling's name. If there isn't, then forget it. Qi Wenhan nodded and said. Although he was also determined to win the first round of the competition, he did not intend to let Lin Yi participate in the first round. After all, he had positioned Lin Yi as a powerful trump card to turn the tables on Gan Hun at a critical moment. If he used him in the first round, not only would it be overkill, but it would also expose his own trump card and put him in a passive position in the following rounds. Moreover, the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency was one of the top 5 escort agencies. Even if they were ranked last, they still had enough confidence. As long as they were not too unlucky in drawing the lots, with the first-class experts in the agency, they should be able to get off to a good start. Therefore, there was no need for Lin Yi to participate in the first round of the competition. Of course, if it was because of Wu Baoyang that Lin Yi decided to participate, then it would be a different story. Qi Wenhan immediately took a pen and paper and wrote down 2 lists of 8 people. One of them had Lin Yi in it, and the other did not have Lin Yi. This was to be used as a contingency plan. Then, he walked up to the stage in the middle in high spirits. At this time, because the drawing of lots was about to begin, most of the 32 agencies had already prepared a list of 8 people and submitted it to the judging panel. However, Qi Wenhan did not submit it immediately. Instead, he ran up to his father, Qi Mingyuan, and whispered a few words in his ear. Then, he walked down with the list and waited to the side. Not only Qi Wenhan, but the other agencies also had people waiting to the side. They all had one thing in common, they were all from the top 5 escort agencies. First look at the list of participants from the other agencies. Once they knew their opponents, they would then make a targeted arrangement. This had always been the privilege of the top 5 escort agencies. This was something that the other agencies could not help but be envious of. Because there was no one on the judging panel, it was useless even if they deliberately delayed. They could not see the list of participants from the other agencies, so naturally, they could not target them. They could only rely on their own strength. Fortunately, the list of participants was submitted before the drawing of lots. Up until now, no one knew each other's opponents, so it was relatively fair. Chapter 4409. There wouldn't be a situation where an escort agency would be purposely targeted. The 5 escort agencies would at most make some minor adjustments to their strategy and wouldn't specifically target one agency. Thus, everyone turned a blind eye to it and acted as though it was nothing out of the ordinary. As one of the 5 escort agencies, they had some privileges. In the South Continent Sea where the strong preyed on the weak, it was already rare to be able to achieve such a level of fairness. No one was stupid enough to ask for so-called true fairness. After waiting for a while, Qi Mingyuan finally saw the name list of the Dragon Boat Escort Agency. He shook his head at Qi Wenhan, indicating that he didn't see Wu Baoyang. Only then did Qi Wenhan hand in the 8-name list that he had prepared in advance. Soon after, the representatives of the other 5 major escort agencies submitted their name lists. Compared to the newly promoted Heaven's Equal Escort Agency, they were clearly more experienced in the way they did things. Qi Wenhan was waiting for the Dragon Boat Escort Agency's name list while they were waiting for the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency's name list. The biggest competitor of the 5 escort agencies had always been each other. The threat that the other agencies posed to them was far from their own. After the 32 escort agencies submitted their name lists, Zhao Bufan represented the judging team and gathered all the people in charge of the escort agencies together. Under everyone's supervision, they started to draw lots in front of everyone. Since ancient times, in any form of competition, the drawing of lots had always been the segment where dirty tricks were most likely to occur. It was also the segment where it was most likely to be manipulated under the table. Therefore, everyone paid particular attention to it and paid particular attention to it. As a result, not only were the judges from the 5 escort agencies watching the entire drawing process, but there were also the other powers that were invited to watch. Under the supervision of so many experts, if there was anyone who could play dirty tricks, that person would have to be as heaven-defying as Lin Yi. Very quickly, under everyone's gaze, the results of the drawing were announced. Not mentioning the other escort agencies, at least the Heavens Equal Escort Agency's draw wasn't too bad. After 2 draws, the opponent for the escort battle was the Horse Escort Agency, while the opponent for the escort robbery battle was Yongxing Escort Agency. What was worth rejoicing was that both the Horse Escort Agency and Yongxing Escort Agency weren't part of the 5 escort agencies. They were not part of the top 5 escort agencies. Not now, not in the past. Therefore, in terms of overall strength, it was obvious that the equal of Heaven Escort Agency was stronger. However, Qi Wenhan wasn't the least bit happy about the result of the draw. Although the strength of these 2 escort agencies couldn't compare to the 5 major escort agencies, they were definitely not weak. In the last South Continent Escort Agency Festival, these 2 companies ranked 11th and 13th respectively. Moreover, the strength of these 2 escort agencies was very stable. Not only in the previous Grand Assembly, but also in the previous Grand Assemblies. In other words, among all the 32 escort agencies, although the Noon Horse Escort Agency and Yongxing Escort Agency weren't the best, they were still the best. But it was completely worthy of the above-average evaluation. More importantly, they were different from the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. In order to deal with the upcoming main event, Qi Wenhan still had to consider conserving his strength in case he ran out of stamina. However, neither the Noon Horse Escort Agency nor the Yongxing Escort Agency had such thoughts. Their typical strategy was to fight to the death with all their might in every match and would never deliberately conserve their strength. To them, the throne of the top 5 escort agencies was an unattainable dream. Their most realistic goal was to maintain their ranking. It was already a great success to be able to squeeze into the top 10 this time. Their previous rankings were obtained by fighting to the death with others. This time, they naturally had to fight to the death. Therefore, these 2 agencies were definitely very hard to deal with. It was no wonder that Qi Wenhan was frowning. This was the first time he had led a team to participate in the South Continent Escort Agency Festival. If they got off to a bad start and failed miserably at the beginning, they would really be too ashamed to face others. Don't be nervous. We are the stronger side. There will be no problem as long as we perform as we normally do. They should be the ones who should be nervous. Lin Yi patted Qi Wenhan's shoulder and comforted him. Brother Ling is right. I was blinded by the situation. Qi Wenhan instantly broke out in a cold sweat. He turned his head to look at the group of escorts who were all focused on him, and nodded gratefully at Lin Yi. The general was the soldier's courage. The war had yet to officially begin, and if even he, the young master, was thrown into disarray, the impact on everyone's morale could be imagined. If he allowed this panic to spread, it was possible that the army would really be defeated like a collapsing mountain. Lin Yi smiled. He did not care too much about the results of the Heavens Equal Escort Agency. However, he would not just stand by and watch Qi Wenhan and the others commit such a low-level mistake. Even if it was just for the sake of their friendship, he still wanted the Heavens Equal Escort Agency to maintain its position as one of the top 5 escort agencies. Otherwise, as the powerful trump card of the Qi father's son, Lin Yi would lose face. Looking at the matchups announced on the huge notice board, the escorts of the 32 escort agencies all rubbed their hands in glee. Finally, under the announcement of the judging panel, they all lined up and marched into their respective competition grounds. For every escort agency, there were 2 matches in the first round of the competition. One was to guard the escorts, and the other was to snatch the escorts. There was no time to adjust between the 2 matches, and they would start at the same time. In the huge magic cold square, the 32 escort agencies each occupied a space. In the center of each space, there was a treasure chest that had been prepared beforehand. This was their escorts, and it could also be said that this was their arena. 8 escorts would fight. 4 of them would be tasked with guarding their escorts and their arena, while the other 4 would be tasked with snatching the escorts from the opposing agency's arena. The judging panel gave the order, and the 32 matches of the first round began at the same time. In 32 arenas, 256 Golden Core stage escorts began to fight. The atmosphere in the square was instantly pushed to its peak, and deafening cheers and shouts soared into the sky. The escorts in the arena were either attacking, defending, confronting each other, or cruising around. Everyone was as if they were facing a formidable enemy, and none of them dared to let their guard down. At this moment, the people who were the busiest were not the escorts, but the people in charge of the various escort agencies. Qi Wenhan, for example, could not attend to both matches at the same time because they were held in 2 different arenas. In the end, he had no choice but to seek help from Steward Song, asking him to supervise the other escort robbery match. Steward Song's position in the Equal of Heaven escort agency was not inferior to Qi Wenhan's. With him supervising the match, the escorts did not dare to be negligent. However, in the face of Qi Wenhan's request for help, Steward Song shook his head mysteriously and pointed at Lin Yi. "That's right." Qi Wenhan finally reacted, and he secretly praised Uncle Song's brilliance. How far-sighted. Chapter 44:10. Rather than having Uncle Song supervise the battle, it would be better to entrust this task to Ling Yi. Nominally, he was asking for his help, but in reality, he was showing that he valued this opportunity to improve their relationship, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. "Brother Ling, I can only entrust this matter to you. You must help me with this." Qi Wenhan turned to Lin Yi for help. "Then, all right." Lin Yi was slightly taken aback, but he did not refuse and immediately agreed. Although he wasn't as deeply rooted in the escort agency as Steward Song, with his status and strength, especially his past achievements, everyone in the agency was still in awe of him. However, it wouldn't be a big deal for him to supervise a battle. Moreover, Lin Yi was also quite interested in this matter. He was used to fighting with others personally, but he had never been an on-the-spot coach before. Today was the perfect opportunity for him to have some fun. Qi Wenhan himself guarded the escort battle, while Lin Yi led the 4 Golden Core escorts to the arena of Yongxing Escort Agency to rob their escorts and fight them. At this moment, the 4 escorts from Yongxing Escort Agency had already entered the arena. They were all prepared to face a formidable enemy and were ready to fight. Just as Lin Yi had said to Qi Wenhan, Equal of Heaven Escort Agency was one of the 5 major escort agencies. Although the 4 escorts from Yongxing Escort Agency were prepared to fight to the death before entering the arena, they could not help but feel nervous at this time. However, the 4 escorts who had come with Lin Yi were not nervous at all. This was the way of the world. The more important the battle, the more critical the situation, the stronger the enemy. It was important to have confidence. If one was afraid before the battle, even if they had a 40% chance of winning, it would be reduced to 30% or even less. Lin Yi sized up the strength of the 4. 2 were at the peak of the late Golden Core stage, and 2 were at the late Golden Core stage. In the Golden Core stage, their strength was considered relatively strong. It was considered average. If he was not mistaken, these should be the best under the command of Yongxing Escort Agency. Because the escort guarding battle and the escort robbing battle started at the same time, and there was a time limit of 30 minutes, the escort guarding side naturally had a certain advantage over the escort robbing side. Therefore, many escort agencies would put their experts in the escort guarding battle. This way, they could guarantee the scoring rate. On the other hand, the 4 of them had 1 Golden Core Paragon and 3 Golden Core Late Stage. They were basically on par with each other, with neither an advantage nor a disadvantage. As for the direction of the match, it was entirely dependent on the performance of both sides. Remember, in the first half an incense stick of time, don't make any attacks. At most, make some probing feints, but don't get entangled with the opponent. This is a four-man team battle. You must protect each other and not leave any openings for each other. Lin Yi quickly entered the role of an on-the-spot coach. The four of them couldn't help but feel a little dazed. Even if they had such a duel in the past, it would be impossible. No one had ever given him such a detailed strategy. At most, they would stand at the side and supervise the battle. Who would have thought that Lin Yi would be able to explain it in such a professional manner? Little did they know. Lin Yi was treating himself like a coach in the mundane world. Everything on the field was done by the players, of course, but Lin Yi didn't care. However, a truly brilliant coach would firmly grasp the direction of the match in his own hands, and then determine the final result. It was the same principle at this moment. But we only have 30 minutes. If we don't attack in the first half an incense stick of time, I'm afraid the remaining 30 minutes won't be enough, right? The four of them looked at each other hesitantly. Finally, the most powerful expert in the Golden Core Paragon spoke up. To be honest, although Lin Yi had not joined the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency for a long time, with his previous heaven-defying deeds, his dazzling identity, and the fact that he was the honorary escort chief personally promised by the chief escort chief, Qi Mingyuan, the four of them were actually in awe of Lin Yi. They dared not disobey Lin Yi's instructions. However, they were now risking their lives to fight. Regardless of whether it was for themselves or for the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency, they had to win this match. Otherwise, if they didn't have this resolve, they would only die even faster in this cruel battle of life and death. That was why they were worried. What if they did not have enough time and failed to steal the goods? What would they do then? If they failed to steal the goods, they would not get a single point. Even if they survived, how would they face the entire escort agency? How would they have the face to take the 50,000 spiritual jades? After all, they still had to continue working in the escort agency in the future. They were all people who cared about their reputation. It was not a good feeling to be gossiped about behind their backs, or even pointed at in front of them. No, we have enough time. Lin Yi shook his head confidently. He analyzed the situation for the four of them. Don't misunderstand. This match may seem like a life and death match, but the key is not the killing, but the goods. Huh? Aren't we fighting for the number of points? The four of them could not help but look at each other. This first match was nominally about stealing the goods. However, anyone who had read the rules would know that it was obviously a competition of points based on the number of people killed. As for the goods, it was just a symbolic gimmick. Chapter 44:11. It's very simple. Just do as I said. Use the first half of the incense stick to test the waters. Wait for the other party to reveal a flaw, then strike hard. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember their numbers and listen to my instructions. You guys work together to kill whoever I tell you to. Don't hesitate, do you understand? Lin Yi paused for a moment, then pointed at the four guards from Yongxing Escort Agency. 1, 2, 3, 4. Remember their numbers and listen to my instructions. Yes, sir. The four of them looked at each other and nodded. Then, they turned around and entered the arena. Success or failure depended on this one move. Seeing the four from Heaven's Equal Security Agency enter the arena, the four from Yongxing Security Agency, who were already on standby, looked at each other and became even more nervous. They did not know what the other party was planning, but they could at least sense one thing. The other party did not come with good intentions. So the Heaven's Equal Security Agency is only a so-so. On the opposite side of the arena, a woman purposely shouted. Judging from her attire and the attitude of the people around her, she should be the person in charge of Yongxing Security Agency. Lin Yi looked at her in surprise. In the chaotic waters of the South Continent, it was naturally difficult for female cultivators to gain a foothold. Yet, this woman was able to become the person in charge of Yongxing Security Agency. It was quite rare. Only by overwhelming everything can one emerge victorious in the end. Other than that, all conspiracies and schemes are laughable, self-deceiving. You don't even understand such a basic principle. It seems like the Heavens Equal Security Agency is really useless. You can't even find someone who can hold up the front. You were lucky to be one of the top 5 security agencies last time. You don't live up to your reputation, the woman said mockingly. The people around her were instantly attracted to her. Lin Yi's gaze also landed on her. However, he only curled the corner of his mouth slightly. He had no intention of retorting. He was not in the mood to bicker with a woman in such an occasion. Not to mention anything else, the woman's words had at least one effect. The 4 escorts from Yongqing Security Agency were obviously not as nervous as before. Deliberately belittling their opponent might have side effects, but at least it could build confidence. In a situation where both parties were equally matched, having confidence was more important than anything else. At this moment, the participants from both sides were already standing in their respective positions. As the staff of the convention lit incense sticks by the side of the stage, the first round of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency versus the Yongqing Escort Agency had officially begun. A man's reputation is like a tree's shadow. After all, the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency was one of the 5 great escort agencies. It was only natural that they would have an advantage in terms of mentality and aura. Under such circumstances, the members of the Yongqing Escort Agency thought that the other party would attack them without hesitation. However, the reality was that the 4 members of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency were cautious and maintained a tight formation so that they could take care of each other. He stood in confrontation with them from afar, and didn't seem to have any intention to attack. See? This is your opponent, this kind of coward who mutters for a long time but doesn't have the slightest bit of manliness. As a robber, he behaved like a coward, hiding in his shell and not daring to move. How could he be a match for our Yongqing Escort Agency? If we can't even beat this kind of trash, we can all go eat shit. Seeing this, the woman began to wantonly clamor again. The surrounding spectators burst into laughter. Although this escort leader of the Yongqing Escort Agency was a woman, her words were far more offensive than those of the other men. Moreover, she didn't need to care about bearing like men did. No matter how much she spoke, no one would blame her. This was simply infuriating. The 4 members of the Equal of Heaven Escort Agency were clearly starting to lose their cool after being provoked by this woman so brazenly. They were here to fight with their lives on the line, not to be ridiculed by this woman. With so many people watching, they couldn't afford to lose face like this. Moreover, in front of women, men were naturally extremely competitive creatures. Even if they were beaten until their faces were swollen, they would still try to act strong. This was an innate instinct that was written in their genes before they were even born. The 4 of them couldn't hold back their anger and finally launched their first attack. The strongest person, who had attained the Golden Elixir realm, was the first to attack. However, he wasn't completely blinded by anger. Although he attacked in anger, he consciously chose the weakest of the 4, the Golden Elixir realm, as a breakthrough point. Lin Yi watched this scene from the sidelines and didn't say anything to stop it. Although he had asked the 4 of them to restrain themselves during the first half of the incense stick, this kind of probing attack was not a bad idea. On the other side, the female escort leader of the Yongqing Escort Agency suddenly revealed a smug sneer, as if her scheme had succeeded. Although she was a shrewd person, she wouldn't go so far as to ridicule in front of so many people without caring about her image. The reason why she did this was to provoke her opponent into taking the initiative. The defending side had a natural advantage. As long as they could defend the escorts within the time it took for an incense stick to burn, they would be able to score. However, the female escort leader of the Yongqing Escort Agency wouldn't be satisfied so easily. She had placed the 4 strongest escorts in this escort battle. As for the escort robbery battle, she did not have any hope at all. This was because the opponent was the most powerful escort agency among the 32 escort agencies, the 4C's escort agency. It was no different from a fool's dream to want to score points from them. This defense battle was crucial to the entire Yongxing escort agency. Not only did they have to score points, but they also had to score as many points as possible. Only in this way would they not be left behind by the other escort agencies. Therefore, simply defending the escorts was not enough. She had to find a way to provoke her opponent into taking the initiative and making mistakes. Only in this way could they score points from the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency. Based on the current situation, her provocative strategy was obviously working. In terms of individual strength, the expert in the Golden Elixir realm of the Equal Escort Agency was the strongest among the 8 people present. His choice of breakthrough point was the weakest of the 8, the Golden Elixir realm. At first glance, it seemed very wise. However, since the Yongxing Escort Agency dared to use such a provocative strategy, how could they not be prepared at all? Raging fire burns the city. The 4 people of the Yongxing Escort Agency suddenly joined hands to form a seal. 4 walls of fire suddenly rose into the sky without warning, trapping the lone expert in the Golden Elixir realm of the Exceptional Escort Agency. From the looks of it, they were going to take this opportunity to annihilate him in one fell swoop. Oh no, hurry up and save him. Fortunately, the escorts of the Heaven's Equal Escort Agency still remembered Lin Yi's instructions and didn't completely let the expert in the Golden Elixir realm of the Exceptional Escort Agency take the risk alone. Although the other 3 were a step behind, they could at least assist him. At this thought, the 3 of them hurriedly launched a joint attack. You're tuning in to the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.